Chapter 425. Everyone, go to sleep first. See you tomorrow afternoon. There is no update for Future Heavenly King tonight. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 426. After 2 days of observation in the laboratory building, Feng Zhao and the others were transferred to the quarantine apartment. Every day, someone will come to check on you to see if there are any abnormalities in your body. You can work here, and you can make an appointment for your 3 meals. If it is inconvenient to disturb you, you can leave a message in advance. Feng Zhao and the others had learned about the matters to take note of in advance, and the management of the isolation apartments was briefly mentioned once more. The manager of the isolated apartment looked at Feng Zhao. If you have any requests, feel free to let me know. A notebook and pen, Feng Zhao said. Military merits were military merits, but art was art. Even if he had to be locked up on Whale Island for a month, he still had to finish the rest of his graduation thesis. Otherwise, if he couldn't complete the mission that Old Master Mo had given him, he would have to postpone his graduation. That's all? The manager asked in surprise. That's all for now. Okay, someone will send it over in 10 minutes. The manager noted down Feng Zhao's request and went to the next room. 5 minutes later, a staff member arrived with the items Feng Zhao needed. It was a complete set of stationery, and they were all office supplies specially used on Whale Island. The notebook even had Whale Island's logo printed on it, and so did the pens. There were also rulers and other commonly used tools in the stationery bag. The room wasn't big, and the decor was similar to a standard hotel room. It just had a small gym and a separate guest room. When Curly Hair finished his missions, Zhao Chao would bring Curly Hair here. There were also simple electronic entertainment devices in the room, but there were network restrictions. The computer could only connect to the intranet. Looking at the audio and video resources inside, the entire Founding Era series was available. Previously, the guards who had been working overtime and had not been able to finish watching it could now watch as much as they wanted during their quarantine. During the conference, all communications with the outside world had to be reviewed. But once the Whale Island conference was over, there wouldn't be so many restrictions. However, communications would still be monitored. This had already been notified to the quarantined individuals. The Whale Island conference lasted a few more days than originally planned. After the conference was over, Feng Zhao contacted Nanfeng to bring Curly Hair back to the Huang Art dormitory. He would let Nanfeng visit Curly Hair every day and bring Curly Hair out for a walk. As for the remaining matters, Feng Zhao had already spoken to Curly Hair alone. It also knew where the dog food was stored, and there was a lot of stock in the dormitory. Feng Zhao had even specially instructed Curly Hair not to eat anything else in the dormitory, including rabbits. Otherwise, he would not be allowed to play games in the future. The day Curly Hair left the Whale Island region, Thornhead cried again. Of course, it wasn't because of camaraderie, nor was it because they were reluctant to part with each other. After the meeting, the inspection dog's performance ranking was also determined. Because Curly Hair had performed well during the conference and had made great contributions, his overall score was higher. Furthermore, Kay had beaten Thornhead by a slight margin. Thus, Thornhead, who had been pushed to 3rd place, was so angry that he cried. 2 streaks of tears were rather obvious as he left the room. The instructor explained, cough, he's suffering from excessive internal heat again. Before leaving Whale Island, the other members of the inspection team came to the quarantine apartment to visit Feng Zhao. As the days of quarantine passed, the chances of Feng Zhao contracting the virus decreased. Thus, when everyone came to visit Feng Zhao, the atmosphere was rather relaxed. Once the matter on Whale Island was over, the personnel began to evacuate one after another, and the island's level of seclusion was lowered. It was more convenient for Feng Zhao to contact the outside world, but there were still some limitations. He contacted Mo Lang first. I still have some matters to attend to here. I will only be able to return after half a month. Feng Zhao could not be too specific. There were still some matters that could not be divulged. Mo Lang didn't pursue the matter. He was an old man and understood some things. As long as he could confirm that Feng Zhao was safe and that Feng Zhao had a lot of time to spend on his thesis and works, the old master was very happy. Just nice. You can consider this a change of location for your seclusion. No one will dare disturb you. Recently, there had been many topics regarding Feng Zhao online. There were also Huangzhou entertainment reporters who wanted to find traces of Feng Zhao. There were even some daring ones who went to Mo Lang's residence to keep watch. Feng Zhao couldn't go online, so he didn't know what was going on outside. Nanfeng said that it wasn't serious and told him not to worry, so Feng Zhao didn't pay attention to it. On the internet, many people were talking about Feng Zhao before the Whale Island conference. The various continents' New Year's Eve parties were very popular, and celebrities from various continents were making appearances. However, Feng Zhao was nowhere to be seen. Someone guessed, Feng Zhao was absent from Yenzhou's New Year's Eve party. Could it be that he also went to Whale Island for a conference? Feng Zhao's discovery of the arcade was a meritorious deed. It makes sense that he obtained the right to attend. Some time ago, there had been rumors that a certain internet celebrity was going to Whale Island for a conference. Following that, there were rumors that a certain actor was also going to Whale Island. Some singer was suspected to have declined the invitation to their continent's New Year's Eve party because of his performance at the Whale Island conference. From the looks of it, Feng Zhao might really be going to Whale Island. However, since this involved the Whale Island conference, the internet didn't dare discuss it too much. Some information that was sent out would sink to the bottom of the ocean. Therefore, most people simply didn't know that Whale Island was also holding a conference. Very quickly, following the conclusion of the New Year's Eve parties, the Whale Island conference also came to an end a few days later. A portion of the celebrities and internet celebrities that had participated in the Whale Island conference started showing off their attendance certificates or photos with a landmark as the background. The conference was over. They could come out and brag. They could show off anything that wasn't confidential. However, there was still no news from Feng Zhao's side. He was absent from Fiery Bird's Customer Gratitude Ceremony, Yenzhou's New Year's Eve party, and Huangzhou's New Year's Eve party. He also didn't appear at the Huangzhou Academy of Arts Student Gala. Where was he? Could he have been banned? Someone guessed. That shouldn't be the case. Let's not talk about the reason why Feng Zhao was banned. Even if he was, could it be so thorough? There isn't even a trace of him. Are all those Huangzhou entertainment reporters just for show? Why does no one believe that Feng Zhao is in seclusion? After all, he is still undergoing advanced studies. Great Master Mo Lang also said that Feng Zhao is in seclusion writing his thesis. You even believe that? Anything is possible, but he can't be in seclusion. Who can shut down all the New Year's Eve parties and Fiery Bird's important customer gratitude event? Who would have the guts? While all sorts of true and false news were flying around, there were people saying that Feng Zhao's endorsement had been withdrawn by Fiery Bird. Evidence? He didn't even participate in Fiery Bird's customer gratitude event. How can Fiery Bird tolerate this? According to reliable sources, Fiery Bird will replace at least 2 of their spokespeople this year. Feng Zhao will surely be one of the replacements. At first, only a small portion of people said this, but very quickly, more and more people believed this conjecture. Even the management companies of many first-rate celebrities from different continents started to take action, planning to snatch Feng Zhao's endorsement. Fiery Bird didn't care about the online guesses at first, but when they saw this bunch of people saying things as if they were the truth, they also became anxious. Who said anything about changing spokespeople? In any case, it definitely wasn't us. The rumors were quickly refuted by Fiery Bird officials. The gist of it was that there would be new products from the dating series in the new year and that they would still be working with Feng Zhao. When the officials said this, some people were stunned. Since when did Fiery Bird have such a good temper? Fiery Bird tolerated Feng Zhao's absence from the annual customer gratitude event. There was another round of heated discussions online. There were also those who seized the opportunity to smear Feng Zhao, but most of them were small media outlets. Larger media outlets had their own channels to gather information. As long as they knew that Feng Zhao had appeared on Whale Island, they wouldn't dare speak carelessly. This was also the reason why Nanfeng had told Feng Zhao not to worry. Within the circles, no matter how much they slandered or boasted, it was just the buzz within the circles. Even the media dared to interfere. However, when it came to politics and military affairs, they didn't dare to casually say anything. Feng Zhao, who was unaware of the commotion online, was currently on a video call with great-grandfather and great-grandmother Feng. He had originally planned on celebrating with the two elders in Yenzhou this year, but he hadn't expected to be quarantined on Whale Island. To prevent the two elders from letting their imaginations run wild, Feng Zhao had to inform them. Great-grandfather Feng had also been paying attention to the news recently. Initially, he had believed that Feng Zhao had secluded himself to complete his advanced studies, but after seeing the analysis online, he had his suspicions. Now that he had received Feng Zhao's call, great-grandfather Feng was extremely happy. "Little Zhao, I finally get to see you." Great-grandfather Feng's beaming face froze when he saw a certain logo on Feng Zhao's side. Great-grandmother Feng, who was squeezed to the side, had wanted to say something but changed the topic. "Little Zhao, how have you been recently?" "Pretty good. I eat and sleep well." Feng Zhao even stood up to let the two elders take a good look at him to prove that he wasn't injured. "Oh, that's good, that's good." Great-grandfather Feng's voice was somewhat shaky. When will you be back?" "Another 20 days or so. It's a pity that I can't go back to celebrate with you guys." It's fine as long as you can come back safely," great-grandfather Feng hurriedly said. As he said that, great-grandfather Feng had a smile on his face again. He started complaining to Feng Zhao about the activities that the retirement facility had arranged for this year's festivities. Feng Zhao listened from the side and responded from time to time. Feng Zhao's call had a time limit. Looking at the countdown on the top right corner of the screen, great-grandfather Feng didn't mention anyone else. He opened his mouth and said, "Little Zhao, you have to be well." I'm fine now. I just ran on the treadmill for 2 hours," Feng Zhao replied. The call ended. The smile on great-grandfather Feng's face completely disappeared, and tears flowed uncontrollably. During the video call, there was a small Whale Island logo on Feng Zhao's side. Thinking about the recent news online about Feng Zhao's absence from various gala events, and looking at Feng Zhao's current situation, great-grandfather Feng could more or less guess what had happened. After all, he had served in the military for many years and knew many things. He knew all too well what kind of crisis lay beneath the calm surface of a conference of this level. What had Feng Zhao been transferred over for? What had he encountered? It seemed like he had been quarantined. Great-grandfather Feng's heart ached when he thought about what Feng Zhao might encounter. He couldn't bring himself to do anything. All the way until Memorial Day, the retirement facility was filled with cheers and laughter. People brought their families over to visit the elderly. Every year, these few days were the most lively and joyous. Descendants came over to visit the two elders. Great-grandfather Feng wore a smile on his face, but he wasn't in high spirits. At this time of the year, little kids compared red packets, older kids compared grades, and adults compared careers and families. Hearing someone mention Feng Zhao, great-grandfather Feng's eyes became hot and he started crying. "My little Zhao," great-grandmother Feng coughed. "What are you crying for during the holidays?" Great-grandfather Feng held back his tears. Chapter 427. Everyone in the retirement facility knew that Feng Zhao hadn't returned to celebrate the holidays with the two elders. Seeing great-grandfather Fang's listless appearance, many people guessed that Fang Zhao's absence had caused the old man to be in a bad mood. Fang Zhao didn't expect to completely hide this from great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fang. After all, the two elders were experienced people. Great-grandfather Fang pretended not to know, and Fang Zhao cooperated. There were many things that couldn't be said. It was fine as long as one understood. Saying it out loud would only add to one's worries. During his month of isolation on Whale Island, Fang Zhao had written his graduation thesis and revised his works in preparation for graduation. He had also read a few books recommended by Mo Lang. After finishing each book, he had written an afterthought. With all sorts of disturbances online isolated, Fang Zhao had a very peaceful month. For him, this month hadn't been difficult. When Fang Zhao came out of the isolation apartment, he was even called over for a meal by the guards who had been released to celebrate his smooth passage. People who had watched Founding Era Yenzhou chapter even asked Fang Zhao for an autograph and a photo. "You are very lucky," Unit 1 Nick of the laboratory building said when he saw Fang Zhao. Many people felt that Fang Zhao was really lucky to not have been infected after coming into contact with the virus source. Whale Island district was much emptier now, and it wasn't as strict as before. Tourist areas had also been opened up. Fang Zhao avoided the tourists and left Whale Island through another exit. Nanfeng and the other two were already waiting for him. Nanfeng had borrowed the car from a friend. After Fang Zhao boarded the car, Nanfeng explained the situation. It hadn't been convenient for Fang Zhao to speak too much during his stay on the island. Now that he was finally out, he had to give a detailed report to prove that he hadn't slacked off as an assistant. "Boss, what plans do you have next?" "Fiery Bird's people have called me a few times to ask about your plans," Nanfeng said. "Mainly for the completion of the advanced course." "Is Fiery Bird's new product coming out?" Fang Zhao asked. "Yes. They say it's to commemorate the discovery of the Alcade. The design has some Alcade characteristics and is tentatively named the Dieting Ada series. Fiery Bird has already released the news, and many people know about it. Of course, the collaboration with Fiery Bird would continue." Since Fiery Bird had expressed their sincerity, Fang Zhao had no reason to reject them. He contacted the relevant person in charge of Fiery Bird and discussed the collaboration with the new product. The details would be discussed at a later date. When Fang Zhao's call with Fiery Bird ended, Nanfeng studied Fang Zhao's expression. Seeing that Fang Zhao did not appear unhappy, he took the opportunity to suggest, "Boss, shouldn't we buy a nanny van now?" Previously, he had used the company's car or rented it for certain events. Sometimes, you need to apply for a flying device. Putting aside the aircraft, he still had to buy a car, right? He had to use it on normal days. Nanfeng continued his analysis. "Look, boss, now that your status has risen, you will surely rise even higher in the future. It's not like you want to compete with others in terms of extravagance or anything. You don't have to fight with newcomers for a car, right? Even if he didn't use the company's resources, it would be troublesome to rent a car at his own expense. Also, I've asked around. When you go to your tutor for a thesis or other academic problems, don't you also have to run around? Now that you are well known in Huangzhou, what if you get recognized when you go out and take public transportation? It's very troublesome, and you can't bring a dog. If you attend an event, you won't have a place to change and rest. Of course, these problems can be solved, but you also won't have a place to compose in peace. How much time will you waste running around? Don't you think so, boss?" "That's true." Fang Zhao nodded. He knew that Nanfeng already had an idea, so he asked, "Do you have a model in mind?" "Sigh, we don't have to be too unconventional. Being low-key and practical is the best. Let's buy the model that many celebrities usually use. I have a friend whose team specializes in modifying vehicles and flying devices. They have a permit, so it's legal. Alright, I'll go take a look after I'm done with Fiery Bird." Fang Xiao made a trip back to Huangart first. His dormitory looked the same, just that the dog food was empty. Curly Hair rushed over and whined. Firstly, he was happy to see Fang Xiao return. Secondly, he wanted to remind Fang Xiao to buy dog food. Thirdly, Fang Xiao had said he would let him play a new game, but he hadn't fulfilled it yet. He had been waiting for a long time. Fang Xiao looked around the dormitory. The rabbit was still alive and well in the water tank. Fang Xiao ordered dog food online and contacted Muzhou Farm to send over another batch. On his first day back, Fang Xiao didn't leave campus. He downloaded a few new games for Curly Hair, discussed composing issues with a few professors, handed his thesis to Mo Lang, explained his graduation plan, and submitted his graduation application. Fang Xiao was the first person to submit a graduation application for this year's advanced course. To obtain a graduation certificate for the advanced course, one had to first apply. Only when the quantity and quality of the thesis met the requirements would the application be approved. The quantity and quality of Fang Xiao's thesis were already sufficient. This efficiency made the others in his batch feel pressured. After the application was approved, a thesis defense and a graduation concert would be arranged. However, these were all matters for June. The earliest thesis defense would be at the end of May. It was only February now, so it seemed like there was enough time. However, a graduation concert would also take up a lot of effort. Especially with Fang Xiao's current popularity and reputation, the academy's requirements would only be stricter. The next day, the academy didn't have any classes. Fang Xiao arranged a time with the relevant person in charge of Fiery Bird to discuss a new endorsement deal. Fang Xiao would be the spokesperson for this year's new product, the Dieting Ada series. Other than that, Fiery Bird hoped that Fang Xiao could advertise during his graduation concert. Huangart's advanced course's graduation concert venue had an advertising area, but after all, it focused on art. The advertising area wasn't large and was light. If one didn't look closely, one might not be able to see it. However, Fang Xiao was different. Now, many people had their eyes on Fang Xiao's graduation concert. Even if it was just a small decorative billboard, Fiery Bird was willing to invest once. Fiery Bird's people also had their own ideas. Even if they didn't believe in Fang Xiao's musical standards, they should at least believe in Mo Lang, right? Behind Fang Xiao stood Mo Lang and a bunch of other great masters. Of course, Fang Xiao was still a very talented person. He wasn't someone who relied on his management company to build up his image. Furthermore, management companies didn't have that ability. Was the 12 Tones advanced course something one could enter just because they wanted to? Then, think about the frightening faculty of the 12 Tones advanced course. On the way to school, there were many great masters guiding you, the kind of genuine master-level guidance that didn't contain any embellishments. As long as you wanted to learn and improve, you could learn more in a year than most people could in 3 years. However, the 12 Tones advanced course was difficult to enter, and it was also difficult to leave. You had to pass an exam to enter, and you had to rely on your thesis and work to successfully graduate. There was no point in staying there. Master-level instructors could only tutor students for a year. Once the 1-year period was over, except for some students who had cooperative projects, those who couldn't successfully graduate after the deadline would lose their previous treatment. After discussing the collaboration with Fiery Bird, Fang Xiao returned to his dormitory, put away his documents, and brought Curly Hair to the car modification club that Nan Feng had recommended. Nan Feng had already bought a car. Just as he had said, the car didn't look special. In any filming set, 8 out of 10 cars used by actors would be this model. Usually, one would see quite a few on the road. These cars were also used to transport goods and move houses. At this moment, Nanfeng's friend was confirming the modifications requirements with Nanfeng. The engine, chassis, and other things will all be modified according to your requirements. Take a look at the additional items. These have not been confirmed yet. Also, you said you would buy the sound system yourself, but you have to let us know what type you are buying. If you haven't bought one yet, let us know the model number first. We have to carry out the technical design and see how we can modify it. Sound system. Fiery Bird's Dieting Z series model, Nanfeng said. This was something he had discussed with Fang Zhao beforehand. If they bought it from Fiery Bird, they could get the first set at half price. There would also be free gifts. This was the benefit of being a spokesperson. When the Dieting Z series sound system had first been released, some people had said that Fang Zhao didn't use it himself. What right did he have to be the spokesperson? Now, it could finally be put to use. The person in charge of taking notes glanced at Nanfeng. Fiery Bird's Dieting Z series sound system wasn't cheap. The money spent on the sound system alone could buy many cars of this model. Their club rarely saw people installing this grade of sound system in ordinary cars. Nanfeng's friend knew the inside story and wasn't surprised. He continued asking, what about the bulletproof grade? As long as you can modify it to the highest grade, Nanfeng replied. What did your boss do to require such a high grade of bulletproof? The friend asked with a laugh. Sigh, the worries of a celebrity, Nanfeng replied jokingly. Of course, he couldn't say the truth. As they were speaking, a luxurious car drove in from outside. A young man whose hair was dyed granny gray got out of the car with a distressed expression. Flatten the dents on the car. The club staff looked over and saw that the exterior of the flashy luxurious car had many small dents, probably caused by something hard. A child wearing a bear print got out of the back seat and played with a small black ball in his hand. He said nonchalantly, you were the one who said I could play with it as I pleased. You said your car was hard enough. Danke Assis, the son of the Interplanetary Fund's chairman, was currently regretting it. When he had seen that little brat play with the ball, he had thought it was just a soft elastic ball. Who knew that it would be a dent? That was his beloved car. It was disfigured just like that. At this moment, another car drove over. It didn't approach but stopped in the parking lot. The car door opened, and Curly Hair jumped out of the car. He shook his fur and looked around curiously. Little Bear's arrogance that had just risen instantly vanished. He jumped behind Danke and began to observe carefully. Danke laughed maniacally in his heart when he saw this. This little kid usually seems fearless. Turns out he's afraid of dogs. No matter how happy he felt, Danke still put on a protective expression. Ah, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. What's there to be afraid of? This dog doesn't eat people. Fang Zhao, who had just gotten out of the car, heard this. When he saw who it was, Danke's smile gradually froze. He recalled that his father had told him to stay far away from Fang Zhao when taking care of little brats. Chapter 428. Danke was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. Wasn't Fang Zhao supposed to be in seclusion? He had disappeared for so long without any news. How did he suddenly appear here? Huangzhou entertainment reporters are really a bunch of good-for-nothings. Danke had asked a few entertainment reporters he kept in touch with before coming out. Only after confirming that Fang Zhao hadn't appeared had he boldly brought Little Bear around. What should he do now? After alighting, Fang Zhao's gaze swept past Danke and stopped on Little Bear. This kid is a little strange. Little Bear revealed a bashful smile when he sensed Fang Zhao's gaze. His eyes were filled with excitement and agitation as though he was about to jump over, but when he saw Curly Hair, he retracted his leg. At the same time, Fang Zhao heard a sound. It was a signal from the arcade that he had heard back on Planet Boo. Fang Zhao's gaze turned to one of astonishment. The signal appeared for a short while before stopping. This time, it wasn't a cry for help. It was more like a probe. After confirming the answer, it stopped. Little Bear was even more excited, but when he saw Curly Hair crouching at Fang Zhao's feet, he shrunk back. Feng Zhao passed the leash to Zuoyu and got him to lead Curly Hair to one side. Zuoyu tugged on the leash, but it didn't budge. Feng Zhao bent over and stroked Curly Hair's head. He patted him twice and indicated for him to wait with Zuoyu. Only then did Curly Hair leave reluctantly. The moment Curly Hair left, Little Bear, who had been hiding behind Denki, skipped over to Feng Zhao. "Hello, I'm Little Bear." "Hello, I'm Feng Zhao." Feng Zhao found a chair and handed it over. "I know you. I finished watching your performance of Founding Era, and I also watched the concert. I watched the game videos and variety shows." Little Bear sat on the chair that Feng Zhao had handed over and swung his legs happily. Denki, who had been forgotten, at this moment, Little Bear was already possessed by a brain-dead fan. He took out all the videos and concerts of Feng Zhao that he had seen and bragged about them. Feng Zhao would reply to Little Bear from time to time as he analyzed this person. No, it wasn't a real person. Although his body temperature, pulse, breathing, and heartbeat were no different from a real person, it was still different. Feng Zhao could hear the difference. It looked like a real person, but it was actually a mechanical body. However, it really resembled a real person, especially those subtle changes in emotion. If not for Feng Zhao's excellent hearing, he really wouldn't have been able to immediately distinguish it. At most, he would have felt that it was a little strange. This was the person the Interplanetary Fund took away from the arcade? Back then, they only knew that the Interplanetary Fund had taken away some confidential core technology or black boxes from the arcade. Even Feng Zhao had never imagined that such a person would exist. As Feng Zhao pondered what kind of attitude he should adopt towards this special little. While Denki was calculating the size of the shadow in his heart, Little Bear was still expressing his excitement. Founding Era is so well acted. I love the Yenzhou chapter the most. The soundtrack was also very good. I cried a few times while watching it. Afterward, I cried so much that I ran out of water. I felt terrible. Feng Zhao paused. Drink more water. You've cried so much that you've run out of water. You need to replenish your water, right? That's right. Little Bear had a look of worship. Denki. Child, your IQ has dropped. How could he believe such nonsense? Drink more water if you can't cry. Do you think you can cry just by drinking water? Shouldn't you be expressing your emotions? However, Little Bear continued, next time, I will definitely bring a few more bottles of water. Are you alright if you cry too much? Feng Zhao asked. It's alright. This is also a way for me to enrich my emotions. Even so, you still have to control it within a reasonable range. You can't possibly carry a few bottles of water everywhere you go, Feng Zhao said. Of course, I have a reserve. I even specially drink water before heading out. I'm not afraid. Little Bear was very pleased. Denki, who had been forgotten, had a look of despair on his face. I can't bear to listen to this retarded conversation. Crazy. However, Little Bear was completely oblivious to Denki's frustration and continued speaking to Feng Zhao. I heard that there will be a graduation concert when you graduate from advanced studies. I also want to go and listen to it, but I don't know if I will have the time. Homework is so much and tiring, but I will overcome this difficulty. Denki, who was listening at the side. Continue your bullshit. Yesterday, Denki had seen Little Bear watching television and had asked, have you finished your homework? I heard that you have quite a lot of homework every day. However, he had received a disdainful piece of cake from Little Bear. And now? Have you eaten all the words I said yesterday? Not only had Little Bear expressed his feelings as a little fan, he had also shared his little pet with Feng Zhao. Here, this is Little Rich's, my pet. You should have seen it before. It can be rubbed like this, patted like this, and pulled like this. Little Bear had shown Feng Zhao the many ways Little Rich's could be used. Danky, I fucking brought you out to play for so long and you still haven't let me touch the black sphere. What do you mean little riches can't be casually touched by others? Today is the first time you see Fang Zhao, yet you take the initiative to hand over your little riches to him? Our friendship after interacting for so long can't compare to Fang Zhao, whom we have only met once. Are you even human to treat me so differently and be so heartless? Danky felt that he couldn't stay here any longer. After his beloved car was repaired, he pulled Little Bear away. In the car, Danky was still feeling indignant and criticizing Little Bear for forgetting his playmate after meeting his idol. Do you like Fang Zhao that much? Danky didn't understand. He is a good person, Little Bear said. How long have you known him? How do you know he is a good person? Many people say one thing to his face and another behind his back. Don't look at how amazing Fang Zhao is on the internet. Who knows what he is like in private? He is especially amazing. Little Bear added. He is amazing, but this has nothing to do with whether he is a good person or not. Danky wanted to say something, but he swallowed his words when he saw Little Bear's eyes sparkle when he talked about Fang Zhao. Forget it. There was no need to discuss how bad their idol was with diehard fans. That would be slapping their own faces. Little Bear rubbed Little Riches, who had curled up into a ball, and said, if I really have to describe it, it should be similar to a nestling complex. When the arcade had been buried in Planet Boo's desert, it had been dormant for a long time and its future was uncertain. It was Fang Zhao who had received his distress signal, allowing the arcade to see the light of day once again and allowing him to return. Fang Zhao could be considered his savior. Although Little Bear had been in a dormant state, everything that had happened around him had been recorded. Every living creature and every machine had been converted into a signal. And Fang Zhao was the first person to receive Little Bear's distress signal and rescue the arcade after so many years of dormancy. As for Curly Hair, Little Bear had sensed the signal of a natural enemy from Curly Hair. They couldn't get close. Without Fang Zhao, I wouldn't be where I am now. Little Bear sighed. However, when these words entered Danky's ears, holy shit. That's a lot of information. Danky's brain started to uncontrollably think about all sorts of melodramatic feuds between wealthy families that he had seen on television. However, when he wanted to continue asking, Little Bear replied, I am still a child. I don't understand. Danky scoffed. Little brat, you are rather shrewd at times like this. Since he couldn't get any more information out of Little Bear, Danky didn't feel conflicted. He was only asking about gossip that involved star conglomerates higher-ups. He didn't really want to get involved. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. I will bring you for a race. Of course, Danky definitely wouldn't really go for a race. He wouldn't dare bring Little Bear for a race. His father and the higher-ups would skin him alive. The race he was talking about was the kind of holographic games that could be found in racing arcades. Since he couldn't drive a real car, he wasn't afraid of driving a virtual one. When they arrived at the arcades, Danky chose a game room and flipped his bangs. Come and sit in the back. Brother will bring you for a ride. I will let you see the driving skills of Huangzhou's racing god. Although it was just a game, the visual and tactile aspects were rather realistic. If he chose the convertible mode, he could even feel the strong wind. After choosing the racetrack and the car model, Danky started racing. After a small round, Danky asked Little Bear proudly, isn't it exciting? Isn't it awesome? Are you happy? Little Bear was expressionless as he replied coldly, oh. TSK, you didn't think much of it. Alright, I will show you my true skills. Danky, who was holding back his anger, got serious in the second round. He had forgotten that Little Bear was still in the car when he started racing. By the time he came back to his senses, even if it was just a game, he would definitely be a frightened child. He turned his head and saw Little Bear looking at him as though he was an idiot. This isn't how you race, Little Bear said. Hey, you're lecturing me. Then how do you think I should race? Denki was displeased. Move to the side. Little Bear switched seats with Denki and let him sit in the back while he sat in the driver's seat. 5 minutes later. Denki dashed to the sink and vomited. This was the first time the self-proclaimed racing god of Huangzhou felt carsick. Denki had suffered a huge blow. Although the title of Huangzhou's racing god was a self-conferred title and was somewhat boastful, he really felt that his driving skills were passable. Even in racing games, he would be a king. But today, he had been slapped in the face by a brat. Denki came back after gargling and looked embarrassed. After holding it in for a while, he said, "A game is a game. Driving a real car is different." Little Bear was unhappy with this. "I can drive too." "That will have to wait until you are of age and get your driver's license." "I can drive." All right, you can drive," Denki said perfunctorily. "I can not only drive, I can also pilot a spaceship." Yes. "You are awesome." Denki continued perfunctorily, but he was sneering in his heart. This lousy child just loves to brag. "Why don't you say that you have driven an arcade before?" Denki, who had calmed down, didn't stay in the game hall any longer and brought Little Bear back. "Actually, I am pretty good at games. It's just that I don't play many racing games these days." "I am rusty," Denki said. "Given your standard, wouldn't you still be abused to tears in other games?" Little Bear said disdainfully. "Sigh, I really haven't. Even if I encounter something I can't beat, I will call my brothers along. One person's strength is always insignificant." Little Bear seemed pensive. Then, he patted Denki's shoulder. "Dandan, thank you for reminding me." "What did I remind you of?" Denki suddenly had a bad premonition. "I have a new idea." "You better not have any ideas." "I am flustered." Denki didn't dare underestimate this brat's destructive power. "You reminded me." "No. I didn't." Denki was on the verge of tears. He had already been apprehensive when he brought this fat kid out today. He didn't know what his father would say when he got back. Now, Little Bear's sudden words nearly made him jump in fright. Who knew what this brat would do? If he really caused any trouble, wouldn't he be the scapegoat? Little Bear didn't hear Denki's inner thoughts. He didn't go to Denki's house. Instead, he returned to his own workplace. In the engineering building of a certain interplanetary fund experimental base, the employees were astonished to see Little Bear. This child would usually go out and have fun whenever he had the time. He never worked overtime. It should be Little Bear's vacation time now, but he actually didn't go out and have fun. This was too rare. Little Bear ignored the gazes of the others and walked into his own workshop. He felt that Denki was right. He was still too weak. Little Riches wasn't of much use. He still needed helpers. If he didn't have helpers, then he would create helpers. The Interplanetary Fund personnel didn't allow him to create any more advanced intelligent items. Thus, Little Bear had always felt that there was no need to create a mentally handicapped pet. Little Riches was actually considered an advanced intelligent item in the eyes of the Interplanetary Fund personnel. This made Little Bear depressed. Since when did the standard for intelligence become so low? In his opinion, without that bit of intelligence, what was left was a rigid and inflexible stupidity. But no matter what, if he wanted to create something now, he could only create something with a lower level of intelligence than Little Riches. After a few long sighs, Little Bear finally decided to create 2 mentally handicapped mechanical pets. He had even thought of names. One would be called Gooden and the other would be called Gosheng. Chapter 429. While Little Bear was creating his new pet, Denki had been reprimanded by his father. When Interplanetary Fund Chairman Meshasis heard that Little Bear had met with Fang Zhao today and had spoken for a long time, he was so scared that his face turned pale. When Denki recounted the conversation between Little Bear and Fang Zhao, Chairman Meshasis no longer harbored any hope in his heart. He knew that Fang Zhao had already discovered that something was wrong with Little Bear. Meshasis ignored the frightened Denki and returned to his own office to make a call to inform his superiors. The person on the other end of the line was silent for a while before replying, "Got it." He didn't say how he was going to pursue the matter, but the chairman relaxed a little. From the looks of it, there wasn't much of a problem for the time being. However, he still had to be reprimanded. Thus, Denki was locked up and reprimanded by his father for an hour. However, what kind of person was Denki? He obediently received the scolding in front of his father, but when he returned home, he vented his grievances by digging up the contact numbers of those Huangzhou entertainment reporters and hurling a torrent of insults at them. The Huangzhou entertainment reporters who were scolded felt even more wronged. They really hadn't received any news. When they heard that Denki was going to blacklist them, the few of them became anxious. Denki's father was the Interplanetary Fund's chairman. He was considered a high-ranking aristocrat in Huangzhou. From time to time, they would still be able to pry out some useful information from him. In order to protect Denki, they had expended a lot of effort. Otherwise, Denki wouldn't have bothered with them. They weren't resigned to being blacklisted just like that. All they wanted was Fang Zhao's whereabouts. Wouldn't it be fine if they searched for him? Knowing that their abilities were limited, the few entertainment reporters contacted their partners in other continents. In Yenzhou, Wang Tai was flipping through his bank account, thinking about what to invest the money in. Wang Tai was rather astonished when he received a call from a Huangzhou partner. Wang Tai was in a good mood after flipping through his bank account. When he picked up the call, he said in a relaxed tone, "Which celebrity news are you digging up this time?" "Fang Zhao," the other party replied. "No way." Wang Tai didn't wait for the other party to continue and hung up. Fang Zhao hadn't been present at Yenzhou's New Year celebration. There hadn't been any definite news about Fang Zhao either. Many people had asked Wang Tai online, but Wang Tai had played dead. It wasn't just because he had suffered at Fang Zhao's hands in the past, but also because he had learned from certain channels that Fang Zhao was on Whale Island. At that time, he didn't even dare to dig for information. Now, he was even more unwilling to take on such a disadvantageous matter. But Wang Tai touched his chin. People from Huangzhou had contacted him. Could it be that Fang Zhao was coming to Yenzhou? Wang Tai decided not to go out for a week. It was just as Wang Tai had guessed. Fang Zhao had applied for 2 days of leave to return to Yenzhou to handle some matters. After discussing some matters at the Fiery Bird branch in Yenzhou, he returned to Silver Wing Media to handle some matters. Fang Zhao had signed a contract with Silver Wing Media as a composer. Going to Huangart for advanced studies and graduation would be discussed with the company. Fang Zhao's return this time was very low-key. Only a small number of people at Silver Wing knew that Fang Zhao had arrived at the company today. After settling company matters and paying a visit to a few Yenzhou industry veterans, Fang Zhao returned to his home in Yenzhou's Qi city when it was already late. Fang Zhao had mixed feelings as he looked at the sign outside his door that said, "Ferocious beasts inside, do not enter unless invited." He felt that the warning effect of the sign was not enough. It looked like a joke. Curly hair didn't just bite people. When he got agitated, he could swallow people whole. However, he only had 2 days of leave. He wouldn't stay home for long. Tomorrow, he would go to Yanbei City to visit his 2 elders and return to Huangzhou the day after. He could change the sign in the future. Curly hair wasn't staying at home, so it should be fine. Speaking of curly hair, Fang Zhao thought of Little Bear. Little Bear was very afraid of curly hair. Why? Was he afraid of dogs or curly hair's mysterious abilities? Fang Zhao couldn't find an answer for now. After pondering for a while, Fang Zhao contacted the 2 elders in Yanbei City. Since he hadn't been able to return for Memorial Day, he definitely had to pay them a visit during this short break. Yanbei City Retirement Facility. Great-grandfather Fang twirled a walnut in one hand and held a chess piece in the other. He was playing chess with the other elders in the retirement facility. Great-grandfather Fang frowned when his communications device rang. Seeing that it was his wife, he grumbled, "Why are you calling at this time? You're disrupting my train of thought." Although he was grumbling, he answered the call quickly. He knew that his wife calling at this time would definitely have something important to say. "Hello, what's up?" "I'm playing chess." "What?" "Little Zhao is calling." Great-grandfather Fang jumped up from his wooden chair in shock, his eyes filled with joy. The other party said something else, and great-grandfather Fang nodded his head. "Yes, yes. Let's head over. Tell little Zhao not to come over. He's tired too." After the call, great-grandfather Fang wasn't in the mood to play chess anymore. He tossed the chess piece aside. "I'm not playing anymore. My family's little Zhao returned to Yenzhou today. He said he wanted to visit us two elders, but we rejected him. This child has too many things to do, and his vacation is short. It's too troublesome for him to run around. We'll head directly to Qian City tomorrow. The weather has been pretty good recently. It's good to travel more." Great-grandfather Fang's spirits were lifted when he learned that Fang Zhao had returned to Yenzhou. How could he still be in the mood to fool around with the bunch of old fogies in the retirement facility? How could playing chess be more important than seeing his grandson? Furthermore, it was his favorite great-grandson. He had waited for a long time, and Fang Zhao had finally returned. That child's studies are too heavy. He seemed to have lost weight during the video call. I have to go over and take a good look at him. Great-grandfather Fang had actually discussed this with great-grandmother Fang when Fang Zhao had been locked up in quarantine on Whale Island. This child Fang Zhao's luck wasn't good. It was a new year, and they had to bring him away from his bad luck. And in the hearts of the two elders, the holy land for getting rid of bad luck, and making wishes for blessings was Qian City's Yenzhou Cemetery for Martyrs. Thus, the next day, Fang Zhao was helplessly brought by the two elders to Yenzhou Cemetery for Martyrs to pray for blessings. The two elders had just arrived in Qian City and didn't go anywhere. After a simple meal, they dragged Fang Zhao into the cemetery. Memorial Day had already passed, and the buzz generated by Founding Era had died down considerably. However, during this year's Memorial Day, there were still many people coming to the cemetery to pay their respects. Every now and then, there would be groups of people coming over to pay their respects. Now that it was school hours, the cemetery looked a little more deserted. After praying for a fortune pouch, great-grandfather Fang brought Fang Zhao to the cemetery area to pay his respects. "You didn't make it to Memorial Day. Now that you are back, you have to make up for it," great-grandfather Fang said as he pulled Fang Zhao along. "Also, your great-grandmother and I both feel that your luck is a little bad. Look at you. You were locked up on your way to school." Great-grandfather Fang lowered his voice as they entered the core cemetery area. Making a racket here would be disrespectful to the martyrs. The two elders looked at the tombstones with reverence and worship. They bowed solemnly and seriously. After paying their respects, great-grandfather Fang pulled Fang Zhao to the grave of martyr Fang Zhao. "Hurry, hurry, hurry. Come over and pay your respects. Be sincere." Fang Zhao. Sighing in his heart, Fang Zhao solemnly paid his respects to his own tombstone. "Pay your respects a few more times. The more the better," great-grandfather Fang urged in a low voice. "There's no need, right?" Fang Zhao replied. "What do you know?" "I heard from an old friend in Muzhou that a kid from the Su family in Muzhou kowtowed so many times to this person that his head turned red. When he went back, his luck changed." Great-grandfather Fang had originally wanted Fang Zhao to kowtow a few times like the kid from Muzhou, but his heart ached for Fang Zhao. Seeing Fang Zhao's conflicted expression, great-grandfather Fang assumed that Fang Zhao couldn't put down his pride and didn't press the issue. Be sincere. Great-grandfather Fang said. This way, this old man can bless and protect you. Fang Zhao. The two old men stood there and stared. Fang Zhao still paid his respects many times until great-grandfather Fang was satisfied. When Fang Zhao walked to the side, great-grandfather Fang carefully approached the tombstone of martyr Fang Zhao. As if whispering a secret, he whispered to the tombstone, Great-grandfather, I'm little Fang. I'm here again. The one beside me is my family's little Zhao. I told you before that he is an admirer of yours. How well he acted as you in Founding Era. The internet was full of praise, and he even won an award. Great-grandfather, you must bless my family's little Zhao. This child loves music and has a talent for composing. He can even treat illnesses. Of course, in his pursuit of art, he has not forgotten to contribute to society. He is a diligent person. Many people say that I am biased, but how can I not be biased? Anyone else would be biased. If great-grandfather Fang was here, you would surely have the same thoughts, right? Standing to the side, Fang Zhao. When great-grandfather Fang finally finished speaking, the three of them came out of the core cemetery area. Great-grandfather Fang explained to Fang Zhao, I know that there are no ghosts in this world. People are gone when they die. But little Zhao, you have to remember that what is buried here is faith. It is faith. It is a very mystical thing, so mystical that it can change your fate in an instant. Great-grandfather Fang pulled Fang Zhao in the direction of the cemetery and told Fang Zhao about the times when he and great-grandmother Fang had served in the military. They had not experienced the cruelty of the period of destruction, but in their own era, they had their own thrilling stories. As they left the cemetery, great-grandfather Fang glanced back in the direction of the tombstone and muttered, so many people come to pay their respects every day. I wonder if the old man heard what I said. Fang Zhao. Sigh. 1 second to remember love, M. Chapter 430. After returning home from the cemetery, great-grandfather Fang and great-grandmother Fang took a short break before going to visit old friends. There were still quite a few old friends in Qian City. It was rare for them to visit, so they decided to catch up. Great-grandfather Fang actually wanted to spend more time with Fang Zhao, but his heart ached for Fang Zhao and he didn't want to disturb him. He knew that Fang Zhao would have to split his attention to take care of them if the two elders stayed. Great-grandfather Fang didn't want to be a burden to Fang Zhao. Furthermore, Fang Zhao would be leaving Yanzhou for Huangzhou tomorrow morning. He needed to rest more. Great-grandfather Fang would let Fang Zhao stay in the Yanbei retirement facility for a period of time after the advanced course was completed. After taking a few more photos, great-grandfather Fang left in satisfaction. He had taken quite a few photos this time and could flaunt them on his friend's circle. Fang Zhao got Yan Biao to drive the two elders out. Fang Zhao had given Zuoyu and Yan Biao a break during the quarantine period on Whale Island. They had spent Memorial Day at home, so they didn't need any extra time off now that they were back in Yanzhou. Zuoyu was packing up. Boss, should I place these gaming helmets on the shelf or? Zuoyu looked at Fang Zhao with a troubled expression. Of the 3 new gaming helmets, one had been given to Fang Zhao when he had gone to Fiery Bird's Yanzhou branch yesterday. It was a belated New Year's gift and was a global limited edition. The second was a gift from Silver Wing Media's professional gaming team. It was a spoil of war from last year's Challenger League. There were only 12 worldwide, and only one in Yanzhou. It had been given to Fang Zhao and had been signed by everyone in the team. It was also a token of their appreciation. The third gaming helmet had been a crowdfunding gift from Fang Zhao's gaming fans. It had been sent directly to Silver Wing and Fang Zhao had received it when he had gone to the company. Along with the helmet was a handwritten letter. On it was Fang Zhao's wish to return to the gaming arena. More than 100 people had signed it. This was just the paper version. The email version already had more than 10,000 signatories and was still increasing. Curly Hair had his eyes on these 3 helmets. Now, Curly Hair wanted to keep the helmets in his little cabinet. This put Zhuyu in a difficult position. Curly Hair's cabinet wasn't big, and it wasn't a place for collectibles. Furthermore, it was a commemorative edition gaming helmet, so Zhuyu didn't let Curly Hair keep it. Now, Curly Hair was baring his teeth at him. Feng Zhao glanced at the situation and said, "Put it on the shelf." After saying that, he gave Curly Hair a warning look. Curly Hair whimpered softly. "That's right. These valuables can be placed on the shelf to display them and also to prevent theft. The personal terminal will be able to display which item has been removed from the display shelf." Zhuyu pointed at the electronic screen on the display rack, which showed the number of exhibits and the temperature and humidity of individual exhibition holes. After carefully placing the 3 gaming helmets on the shelf, Zhuyu turned his head and saw Curly Hair squatting at the side, looking up at the shelf. This dog. Why is it looking at the gaming helmet with eyes that are even brighter than when it's looking at a bone? Is staring at these things filling my stomach or something? Zhuyu scratched his head in confusion. Could it be that dogs had a hobby of collecting? However, Zhuyu didn't know that in Curly Hair's heart, these 3 gaming helmets were his. Feng Zhao rarely played games at home. In any case, Feng Zhao loved music the most and didn't really like gaming. This meant that it belonged to Curly Hair. After Zhuyu left, Curly Hair retracted his gaze from the shelf and wagged his tail to play games. He had brought one of the gaming helmets back home to Huangart and had a spare. That night, Curly Hair played games the entire night. Feng Zhao had given him a new game. In the morning, Curly Hair was pulled back by his ear by Feng Zhao. Otherwise, this dog wouldn't have continued playing without rest. There were still classes and school assignments at Huangart, so Feng Zhao left Yenzhou for Huangzhou Institute of Art after breakfast. After leaving, Feng Zhao added some feed to the water tank feeder and knocked on the side of the tank. "Take good care of the house." Inside the water tank, the 2 ears of that soft rabbit swayed along with the weak flow of the water. On the night that Feng Zhao left, 2 figures appeared at Feng Zhao's doorstep. One of them fiddled with some equipment and gestured. The door was unlocked. However, the 2 didn't enter immediately. Instead, they glanced at the sign hanging at the door. "Ferocious beasts inside. No entry unless invited." The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled silently. Then, they quickly entered the room. After confirming that the house's surveillance cameras and alarms had been dealt with, the 2 unloaded their equipment. "Easy peasy," the skinny but nimble person said disdainfully. "It's an old building, and this is the top floor. It won't be easy to notice." The shorter person surveyed the surroundings vigilantly. Feng Zhao had bought Xue Jing's house back then. Perhaps when Xue Jing had bought a house here a few years ago, this building had been one of the best in the area, but after so many years, it had become an old building. Some of the facilities were no longer up to date, and there were many loopholes. For certain professionals, it really wasn't difficult. So Feng Zhao lives here. This doesn't seem to match his status. The other person took out a miniature camera and started taking pictures of the house. Now, some of the old buildings in the area had already been demolished and rebuilt. They were taller and more beautiful. In comparison, the building Feng Zhao lived in was really lacking. If it had been a second-rate or third-rate celebrity living here, it would have been fine, but with Feng Zhao's current popularity and status, it didn't seem suitable. It's a good thing he lives here. Otherwise, the difficulty of our mission would increase by a few levels. All right, let's start the mission. You take your pictures, I'll search mine. What's there to panic about? Anyway, Feng Zhao has already gone to Huangzhou. No one will disturb us. Even if we sleep here for a night, no one will know. One was a professional thief, the other an unscrupulous entertainment reporter. In their respective circles, they were very famous. Infamy was still fame. The two of them had worked together many times. This time, they had accepted a mission from their employer. Sneaking into Fang Zhao's house at night and digging up Fang Zhao's secrets. If they could unearth some world-shaking news, that would be even better. We still have to be a little more cautious. There might be some hidden mechanisms in the house. Are you talking about ferocious beasts? The skinny guy laughed. The other person recalled the warning sign hanging on the door and couldn't help but laugh. This Fang Zhao guy is really humorous. Don't say. That dog of his really bites. It's very professional. When Muzhou people talk about dogs, how proud are they? But even if they aren't convinced, they still have to admit that the dog is impressive. Fang Zhao loves that dog so much that he brings it with him everywhere he goes. Nonsense. If it were me, I would bring it too. It's 200 million. After the two of them laughed, they borrowed the light from their lighting tools to get a rough look at the interior of the house. Didn't they say that Fang Zhao was very rich? This house doesn't look like much. It wasn't extravagant or exaggerated. It looked a little too simple. They had visited the mansions of many rich and powerful people. For someone of Fang Zhao's status, the decorations in his house could already be considered shabby. This is what's scary. We can't tell what kind of person Fang Zhao is, nor can we tell what his preferences are. Fang Zhao is just a rather talented celebrity. Shouldn't he be called an artist now? Why would such a young artist be targeted? The people who had hired them weren't good people. How had Fang Zhao, who was in the arts circles, attracted the attention of those people? Who was he blocking? Who cares, they just needed to get paid to work. Fang Zhao had already brought the dog away, so they didn't have to worry about encountering it. It wasn't obvious at first, but now that I take a closer look, there are quite a few valuable things in his house. The professional thief's eyes lit up. His gaze swept over everything from the autographed custom-made guitar, the display shelf with several limited edition gaming helmets, the water tank, and so on. These will all be brought away later. This is the hybrid sea slug that's worth $80 million. The world's most expensive pet sea slug. Half of its body has extraterrestrial genes. It is said that it can be used as a light if you knock on it. The person who had been taking pictures moved closer to the water tank and knocked on it. There was no reaction. It's not lighting up. Could it be that there's something wrong with the operation? I remember watching Fang Zhao's live broadcast in the past. That's how he knocked. Maybe it's a publicity stunt. It's to inflate the value of this sea slug. After knocking for a while, the sea slug in the water tank still didn't light up. The skinny guy wasn't satisfied. He unlocked the water tank and used a tool to poke at it. Still no reaction. There's no doubt it's a publicity stunt. How boring. It's not worth 80 million at all. Because they knew that Fang Zhao wouldn't be coming back, no one usually came here. The two of them weren't in a hurry and were still in the mood to chat. I suddenly thought of a movie that was released recently, that sci-fi movie about sea slugs. Oh, you mean the one that's been trending online recently, the one about sea slugs that take advantage of their owner's absence to open the water tank and crawl out? Yes. It's rather interesting. After watching that movie, every time I see a sea slug locked in a water tank, I can't help but wonder if a sea slug can really open the lid and crawl out by itself. Tisk, one look and I can tell that you've never raised a sea slug before. You actually believe that? Science fiction is all about fantasy. Those are all things that can't possibly happen. But this one is really big. I've never seen such a big one of the shaggy-haired species. It's enough to cook a pot. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. The two of them were silent for a while and looked at each other. Wouldn't it be too wasteful to eat it? Should we fish it out when we leave? We can sell it for quite a bit. It's too eye-catching. Researchers won't take a liking to it, and pet owners rarely buy it. There's only one in the entire world. Why don't we just cook it? I just took a look. There's a pot in the kitchen that can cook a pot, and there are all sorts of condiments. A certain unscrupulous entertainment reporter swallowed his saliva. He loved eating sea slugs, and this species in front of him that he had never tried before made him envious. Eating an 80 million hot pot in a celebrity's house. The skinny guy's eyes flashed with excitement. Exciting. After eating, leave some soup residue for Fang Zhao. I wonder what kind of reaction Fang Zhao will have when he comes back and sees it. He'll probably explode. He. The more he thought about it, the more excited he got. Say it lazily. See you tomorrow. Chapter 431. I should be the first entertainment reporter to sneak into Fang Zhao's house. The person taking pictures of Fang Zhao's house was a little pleased. Yes, even Wang Tai hasn't been inside. Speaking of which, Wang Tai doesn't seem to be interested in news about Fang Zhao. He has exposed so much, but the news about Fang Zhao can be counted on one hand. He even proclaims himself the king of Yanzhou's paparazzi, the skinny guy said as he fiddled with his equipment. Wang Tai. Who does he think he is? The entertainment reporter sneered. Ever since he was locked up, Wang Tai is no longer the Wang Tai of the past. He's so timid, a piece of trash. The entertainment reporter flipped through the drawers in the study but didn't find anything useful. Even the music scores and manuscripts were from a long time ago. However, they were Fang Zhao's handwritten manuscripts, so he still took a few pictures. Fang Zhao's own music score symbols would be destroyed every time they were converted to music scores for general use. Important works would either be carried around or kept in a safer place. They wouldn't be left in an unoccupied house for long periods of time. So now, this bad entertainment reporter didn't find any particularly useful information. However, he still took pictures of every corner of the house. This was also the request of his employer. Who knew, his employer might be able to dig up some important information from the small details in the photos or videos. As for the skinny professional thief, after flipping through the room, he still focused on the collection rack. He deftly turned off the alarm, disconnected the collection rack from the owner's personal terminal, and connected to a fake information source. Even if Fang Zhao checked the collection rack from his personal terminal, he wouldn't find anything unusual. After doing all this, he opened a slot in the collection rack and was about to take out the limited edition gaming helmet when he was stopped by his colleague. Are you sure there's no problem? The display rack's control system is only bound to a personal terminal, the entertainment reporter asked. As a veteran entertainment reporter, he felt that something wasn't right because there wasn't any important information in the house. Although the skinny guy felt that there was no need, since the other party had said so and time wasn't tight, he checked again. No problem. It's only bound to Fang Zhao's personal terminal. It's already blocked. That's good. After confirming that it was safe, the skinny guy took out the gaming helmet from the slot. This is the commemorative gaming helmet that Fiery Bird displayed at last year's thank you ceremony. Designed by a world-renowned design master, it's high-end. Only a few important clients and spokespersons have it. Many people have bid for it online, and the top 10 bids have already exceeded 7 figures. They can be resold after some processing. At the same time, in the dormitory of the Huangzhou Academy of Art. Due to the time difference, night had yet to fall in Huangzhou. Fang Zhao had gone to class and had yet to return. In the dormitory, Curly Hair was sleeping and snoring. He had followed Fang Zhao to Yanzhou, played games, and slept soundly. As for that rabbit, Fang Zhao was worried that Curly Hair would eat it in a fit of excitement, so he had left it at home. He hadn't brought it along this time. However, Curly Hair, who had been sleeping, seemed to have been startled by something. He suddenly jumped up from his bed, his sleepiness instantly disappearing. His entire body stiffened as he carefully tried to discern something. He let out a low growl and then paced around the dormitory impatiently. Yenzhou, Feng Zhao's house in Qian City. After the skinny man put the first game helmet in place, he took the second game helmet out of the slot. In the dormitory, all the hair on Curly Hair's body was standing on end. His eyes were filled with an ominous glint. His lips parted to reveal his sharp teeth as he growled even more anxiously. It wanted to scratch the floor and bite something, but Feng Zhao had warned it, so it could only stop. However, the trembling upper lip and the baring of his sharp teeth showed that this dog was already in a violent rage. Click. The dormitory door opened. Feng Zhao had returned from class. The moment he saw Feng Zhao, Curly Hair rushed over and howled at Feng Zhao. After closing the door, Feng Zhao looked at Curly Hair in confusion. What happened? Woof 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 woof. The furious Curly Hair jumped and howled in front of Feng Zhao, as if he was anxious to tell him something. However, Feng Zhao couldn't understand what he was trying to convey. However, he knew that Curly Hair's anger was definitely not directed at him. But what exactly could cause Curly Hair to have such a reaction? Don't be anxious. Take your time. What do you want to say? The more anxious he was, the more he didn't know how to express himself. After calming down, Feng Zhao could guide Curly Hair on how to express himself more clearly. At this moment, in the dormitory in Yenzhou, the skinny man removed the third game helmet. Curly Hair, who had just been calmed down by Feng Zhao, jumped up anxiously once again. Oh. If it had been a human, he would have started speaking incoherently. This was the first time Feng Zhao had seen Curly Hair like this. Something big must have happened. No matter how smart Curly Hair was, his ability to express himself was limited due to the language barrier. Furthermore, Curly Hair was in a state of agitation and had lost his cool. Feng Zhao really didn't understand what those howls meant. Feng Zhao could not continue wasting time like this. He decided to grab the gaming helmet. Curly Hair knew how to play games. Under Feng Zhao's training, he had learned some commonly used words and letters in games. It was still a little difficult for him to write a complete sentence in the dialogue box, but he should be able to write keywords. As long as Feng Zhao knew the key words, it would be easier for him to piece together what Curly Hair was trying to say. However, at this moment, Curly Hair was already in a state of intense emotional turmoil. When he saw Feng Zhao walk away, he thought that Feng Zhao didn't take him seriously and was so anxious that tears were about to flow. Just as Feng Zhao was about to walk over to the cabinet where Curly Hair had hidden his helmet, an urgent shout rang out in the dormitory. Feng Zhao. Amidst the aura of intense emotions, there seemed to be high-frequency mechanical sounds and the roar of high-speed motors. It sounded very strange. But at this moment, the sound was no longer Feng Zhao's focus. Feng Zhao turned around abruptly and revealed a rare look of astonishment. The dog that he had raised for so long, speak. 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 Although he had already mentally prepared himself when Curly Hair had unintentionally hummed the game background music, Feng Zhao had never expected this day to come so quickly and so suddenly. Curly Hair stared straight at Feng Zhao. His usually clear and innocent dog eyes were flickering with radiance, as if they were hiding an endless and mysterious galaxy. In the room, the air seemed to have frozen. But very quickly, this atmosphere was broken. A roar that was 30% aggrieved and 70% impatient rang out in the dormitory. My game console has been stolen. Yenzhou, Qian City, Feng Zhao's residence. The skinny guy was packing up the items that he thought would sell on the shelves. Is this really Feng Zhao's residence? There are too few things. Don't tell me he has another residence. This might just be one of his many residences. People like him shouldn't only have one property under their name. More private items might be hidden elsewhere. That's also possible. I'm almost done searching. Are you done filming? Let's go eat the sea slug hot pot after filming. I'm a little hungry. But I heard that thing is poisonous. We won't be poisoned to death, right? The skinny guy said. Don't worry. Everything will be fine once it's settled. People who often ate sea slugs were very clear about the steps to slaughter and how to clean them. Sea slugs have high nutritional value. This one, which is worth 80 million, is definitely the best. Don't miss it when you encounter it. Since its other aspects are suspected to be hype, its value could be reflected in its nutritional and medicinal value. This trip was worth it. Really worth it. Seeing that the skinny guy was still worried, that person continued, why don't we fish it out and bring it back? We can try it on an animal. If there are no problems, we can eat it. That's a good idea. Later on, you go kill that sea slug first. I'll go find some ice to bring back to eat. If we bring it back alive, it will easily die and affect the taste. After saying that, the two of them planned to continue searching. Suddenly, they heard a light click, like the sound of a lid being buckled. The two people in the room paused at the same time and held their breaths. The sound insulation of the doors and windows was very good. The surrounding noise was blocked out, and the room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. In the living room, there was the sound of water dripping, but it quickly disappeared. The skinny guy took out his dagger, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The entertainment reporter also took out his gun. This was a gun he had found someone to buy, and it came from a shady background. The two of them quietly went to the living room and looked around carefully, but they didn't see anyone. The living room's furnishings were very simple. There weren't many places where people could hide. His eyes carefully scanned every corner of the living room. When the entertainment reporter saw the water tank, his eyes widened. Where's that sea slug? As soon as he said that, when the two of them looked at the water tank, a big furball with a diameter of more than 1 meter suddenly appeared in a pot of woody plants. The intense pain stimulated their nerves. Ah! Two painful cries sounded at the same time. Screams, groans, silent fainting. After a few breaths, the two of them fell to the ground. The room became quiet again. And the big furball that suddenly appeared just now shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye until it returned to its original size. The sea slug that had been locked in the water tank had escaped again. Furthermore, its body, which could normally be held up with 2 hands, rapidly expanded when it sensed danger approaching. Its body of loose hair stuck out as its body expanded. In order to avoid leaving behind fingerprints and body fluids, the two intruders wore gloves, masks, long sleeves, pants, and bulletproof vests. Although the bulletproof vests blocked part of the damage, their gloves and masks were easily pierced. The two of them were stung on their hands, arms, and faces. Everything happened in an instant, and the two of them were caught off guard. Their vision blurred, and the stung areas were numb from the pain. The venom spread rapidly. The knives and guns in their hands fell to the ground. Their legs couldn't support them anymore. They staggered 2 steps before collapsing and losing consciousness. After a while, the rabbit, hiding in the pot of plants, crawled down and climbed onto one of them. It extended its 2 antennae and probed. Then it climbed onto the other person and probed. After that, it left uninterestedly and went to gnaw on the potted plants in the living room. It had been brought to Huangzhou by Feng Zhao for a period of time. The potted plants in the house had sprouted tender leaves again, and 2 of them had even bloomed. And the 2 unconscious people on the ground were stung once. When the rabbit crawled over to test them, it was stung again. Chapter 432. Huang Art Dormitory. Nan Feng, Yen Biao, and Zuiyu were all here with Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao had already informed them about the burglary at his house in Yenzhou and had already contacted Silver Wing. Silver Wing knew how to handle it. They were experienced in such matters, and with Feng Zhao's status, the company didn't dare be careless. They believed that they would get a reply soon. Feng Zhao needed time to rush over. There was nothing shameful in the house, and there were no classified documents there. There was no rush. He could wait for the results. Silver Wing had asked Feng Zhao if he wanted to handle this matter in the dark or in the open. Dark meant sending people over to take a look, while in the open meant contacting the police. Feng Zhao chose in the open. Of course, regardless of whether it was in the open or in the dark, it had to be done discreetly. After all, Feng Zhao was now a public figure. At this moment, Nanfeng was restless. His face was pale. Luckily, Feng Zhao didn't have anything shameful in the house, so he didn't need to worry about any scandals being exposed. But 80 million. There was a sea slug worth 80 million in that house. The most expensive in the entire house. Would a knowledgeable thief miss it? Even those few limited edition gaming helmets combined couldn't compare to the sea slug's value. Perhaps the thief had gone in to steal the sea slug. Nanfeng was very regretful now. He really had to carry such a valuable item on him at all times. When Feng Zhao had brought him to the dormitory, he had only paid attention at the start. Afterward, his attention had shifted to curly hair. After all, curly hair was worth 200 million, and with military merits, his hidden value was much higher. However, this didn't mean that he didn't care about that 80 million. Nanfeng had already prepared himself for the sea slug to be stolen. He consoled himself and thought, luckily, curly hair was with Feng Zhao all along. Turning his head, Nanfeng saw curly hair squatting at Feng Zhao's feet listlessly. He took a closer look and was shocked. "Boss, why is our curly hair crying?" Yan Biao and Zuiyu also looked over. They hadn't noticed before, but now that they heard Nanfeng's words, they realized that curly hair's eyes had obvious tear stains, as if he had just cried. Dogs can cry. Yan Biao was curious. He had been Feng Zhao's bodyguard for so long, but he had never seen curly hair cry. He hadn't paid much attention to pets in the past, so he really didn't know that dogs could cry. Of course it can cry. My former comrade's dog loves to cry. Crying at the scolding. Nanfeng and the other two looked at the expressionless Feng Zhao and then at the listless curly hair. Had he been scolded by Feng Zhao? Sensing the gazes of the three, Feng Zhao glanced at curly hair, who was hanging his head. I heard his house was burgled and he was so angry that he cried. Oh, I see. Understood, understood. When I found out, I was so angry that I almost cried. Nanfeng and the other two nodded, but they didn't think so. What did curly hair know? He must have been scolded by the boss. Feng Zhao had probably given curly hair a good scolding before the three of them had arrived. Or could it be that Feng Zhao had vented his anger on curly hair because his house had been broken into? Feng Zhao was not in the mood to care about what the three of them were thinking. Even the matter of his house being burgled in Yenzhou had to wait. What he was thinking about the most now was curly hair. The dog spoke. Then, Feng Zhao realized that the dog didn't seem to realize that he had spoken. Just like the time when he had unintentionally hummed the background music, curly hair hadn't realized that he had spoken human language either. His attention was probably focused on his 3 stolen game consoles. No, that's not right. Those are my game consoles. When did they become his? Feng Zhao frowned and sized up curly hair. Before calling Nanfeng and the other two over, Feng Zhao had told curly hair not to make a sound. It would be bad if he accidentally spoke human language and was overheard. Now, curly hair really didn't make a sound. However, from the looks of it, he would probably cry again if all the game consoles were stolen. Logically speaking, there was a high chance that someone capable of bypassing the alarm system and destroying the surveillance cameras would be able to escape unscathed before the police arrived. Curly hair hadn't learned much from his trip to Whale Island, but he had learned how to cry. Feng Zhao had also asked curly hair how he knew there was a burglar in his house. Curly hair still couldn't say anything. To be precise, he couldn't speak clearly. His pronunciation was very strange, like a child that hadn't learned how to speak yet. He didn't know what he was saying at all. The only two sentences he could enunciate were Feng Zhao and my game consoles were stolen. These were all said in a moment of desperation. After that, Curly Hair typed out a few keywords in the chat box with the help of the gaming helmet in the dormitory. Feng Zhao could roughly guess what he wanted to express. How did Curly Hair know that there was a burglar stealing the gaming helmet? Because he had bound the gaming helmet to the display rack. He had used his own method. And it wasn't easy to find out. As for how he bound it and why he used such a method, for Curly Hair, it was just a sudden realization. Using it was as simple as eating and drinking. It was an innate skill, just like a baby drinking milk. If there was a difference, Curly Hair hadn't been born with this ability. At least, Curly Hair hadn't known this before. That day, when he stared at the display rack, he had a feeling that he could bind it. In short, Curly Hair couldn't explain it. While Feng Zhao was pondering Curly Hair's question, there was finally a reply from Yanzhou. Silver Wing had set up a temporary team the moment they received Feng Zhao's call to handle this matter. The person who had contacted Feng Zhao was the person in charge of this team. He was also the one who had contacted the police. Probably nothing was lost. The two intruders have also been arrested. However, this matter is a little troublesome. The person in charge glanced at the two stretchers being carried into the emergency flying transport. When we arrived, the two of them were lying on the ground with swollen bodies like pigs. We have already confirmed their identities. Those two are on the A-level wanted list and are suspected to have been poisoned. Their lives are in danger and must be treated immediately. If we wait any longer, we can only contact the forensics team. There is no way to completely suppress this matter now. It's best if you come over tomorrow. We might need your cooperation in the investigation. Feng Zhao's expression became more and more strange as he listened. All right, got it. The other side paused for a moment before asking in a low voice. Did you hide any dangerous drugs at home? No, Feng Zhao replied. The other side asked a few more questions before ending the call. After Feng Zhao hung up, Nanfeng hurriedly asked, how was it? Was the sea slug stolen? No, it was in the water tank when the police arrived. Nanfeng let out a long sigh of relief and asked without much hope, have the thieves been caught? Caught. They are being resuscitated, Feng Zhao replied. Nanfeng and the other two. Resuscitated? Curly Hair whimpered at the side. Feng Zhao glanced at him. Gaming helmets and other valuables weren't taken. Nothing was stolen. Feng Zhao let Zuiyu and Yen Biao head over to Qian City first. He would head over after his classes the next day. Yanzhou's Qian City. The person in charge of Silver Wing's handling of Feng Zhao's matter was frowning as he contacted the hospital. It would be best if he could find out what poison the two had been poisoned with and how they had been poisoned. He was guessing what Feng Zhao had hidden at home. He felt that Feng Zhao was definitely hiding something. Perhaps it was even illegal goods, but Feng Zhao was unwilling to confess. Since Feng Zhao had chosen to do it openly, it probably wouldn't involve drugs. However, Feng Zhao had Black Street experience. He was worried that Feng Zhao had dealt in other illegal drugs, especially such highly toxic ones. Sigh, what a headache. He had thought that the matter could be resolved quickly and quietly, but he hadn't expected such a situation to occur. Silver Wing had no way of smoothing things over in a short period of time. Given the identities of the two thieves, this matter wouldn't be easily forgotten. In the building Feng Zhao lived in, a certain internet celebrity was broadcasting live from a room a few stories lower. He was taking pictures of the night scene and singing a very artistic night song to express his surging emotions. Just as he was immersed in it, he saw an emergency flying transport with a white background and a red label. There were also flashing warning lights. The internet celebrity stopped singing and turned the camera to the sky. It seems to be a resident on the top floor. I wonder what happened. There's even the police. Could it be some kind of malicious incident? I'm a little scared. As he said that, he received a push notification from a social media outlet. He clicked on it and saw that the photo attached was of the top floor. It had been taken by an entertainment reporter from another building. The angle was different, but he could clearly see a few uniformed police officers as well as the emergency flying transport that had flown over and landed on the tarmac on the top floor. When he took a look at the owner of the building, the internet celebrity was shocked. His first reaction, fuck. Fang Zhao lives above me. His second reaction, something big happened. There were police officers and an emergency flying transport. How could it be a small matter? If it had been anyone else, everyone would have just treated it as tonight's news. They would have seen it, talked about it, and let it go. But now, it was a celebrity. A celebrity who was famous in all 12 continents. Not long ago, they had been discussing him. When the audience in the live broadcast room heard what the internet celebrity said, they immediately exploded. The audience wasn't just from Yenzhou. They came from every continent. Something happened to Fang Zhao's family. It's confirmed. 2 Yenzhou reporters have already exposed this news on social media platforms. The internet celebrity hurriedly glanced at the increasing number of online viewers and excitedly flipped through many web pages and platforms. Up until now, 3 entertainment reporters from Yenzhou have confirmed that the person living on the top floor is Fang Zhao. There should be no mistake. But we don't know what happened to Fang Zhao's family. It should be a little serious. Now, the entertainment reporters in Xi'an City are like flies that have smelled shit, bears that have smelled honey. They are starting to dig for the truth behind this. I will continue to follow this matter. I wonder if I can go up and take a look. 110, police number, plus 120, emergency number, equals serious incident. 110 plus 120 plus celebrities. Or was it one of the brightest stars in Yenzhou in the past 2 years? Netizens couldn't be serious. Besides Fang Zhao's fans, the majority of the people who had gathered here were purely here to watch the show. Curious. This was the Fang Zhao that had been the hottest topic recently. The genius artist in everyone's eyes. The new product ambassador that Fiery Bird headquarters had personally appointed. The role model of the younger generation that had been praised many times by authoritative media outlets and military newspapers from every continent. Finally, there was still negative news. 5 minutes later, someone from Huangzhou confirmed that Fang Zhao was at Huangart. 2 hours ago, Huangart students had seen Fang Zhao in class. It was impossible for him to be in Yenzhou. Then, who was living in Fang Zhao's house now? A relative? A friend? Or? Nanfeng's face darkened as he read through all the wild guesses online. Boss, do you want to post an explanation online? Nanfeng showed Fang Zhao the latest entertainment news that had popped up. He saw that the headlines of 4 consecutive news feeds were all about Fang Zhao. The headlines were enlarged and bolded, romance exposed. Mysterious woman found in Fang Zhao's mansion. Shock. Popular celebrity hiding a mistress in a secret house. Yan police raid Fang Zhao's mansion. Many arrested. Fang Zhao's public image collapses. Insider reveals, at least 3 months. Fang Zhao. Chapter 433. From the moment the first photo was released, within an hour, the entertainment reporters had basically all released the same thing, the opening photo. The content was all made up. The truth. The truth was important, but traffic was even more important. At times like this, traffic was what they were fighting for. Whoever could grab the most traffic at the first possible moment would be the one grabbing the most money. Was rumor-mongering in the entertainment circle considered rumor-mongering? That was speculation. Otherwise, when the truth came out, what would happen if there weren't any topics to stir up? Take advantage of this opportunity to earn a wave first. These entertainment reporters weren't just making things up without logic. They even provided all sorts of analysis as if they were the truth. Feng Zhao had indeed disappeared for a period of time because he had to attend his graduation concert and because of the Whale Island matter. The netizens' thoughts were also carried along as they read the entertainment reporter's analysis. Thinking about how long Feng Zhao had been missing, these analyses all seemed reasonable. There were photos and facts showing that Feng Zhao had stayed in Qi'an City for 2 days before leaving in a hurry. Perhaps, as some entertainment reporter had guessed, he had gone to meet his lover? Or perhaps it was the invisible incident that the entertainment reporter next door had mentioned? After all, even the police had been mobilized. The entertainment reporters made up stories enthusiastically, and the onlookers were excited. Some media personnel who hadn't been able to make it to the first round of traffic saw the rising traffic of others and got envious, so they also joined in. There were also those who stirred the waters. If they didn't step in, they would be letting down such a good opportunity. They absolutely couldn't allow Silver Wing to cover up this matter. Of course, there were also some people who disdained doing this, such as Wang Tai. They didn't blindly fabricate things. As long as it was exposed, there was solid evidence. Their business directions were different. Normally, they earned their own money and didn't undermine each other. They didn't say anything in private, but at least on the surface, they got along harmoniously. Now, Wang Tai snorted disdainfully at those truth monarchs online. If a person like Feng Zhao really wanted to hide anything, would he let this bunch of trash find him? Although Wang Tai didn't dare openly involve himself in Feng Zhao's matters, he was also curious about this matter. He wasn't the kind of person who would just stand at the side and stare, so he put on a fake identity and joined in the fun. One look and it's obvious that Feng Zhao took the initiative to contact the police. Perhaps someone suffered at Feng Zhao's hands. I just don't know who was so unlucky. In any case, he was not the unlucky one. Wang Tai was happy to watch others make a fool of themselves and wait for the truth to be revealed. In Liizhou, Zero was preparing to take a nap. He had been thrown by his dad to train the past few days. Whenever he had the time, he wanted to rest more. He was not in the mood for anything else. However, just as he closed his eyes, Wu Tianhao's call came. Have you seen the news on the internet? Someone's public image is about to be ruined. Wu Tianhao laughed wickedly. Zero yawned and said, so be it. It's boring. Every day, there are scandals that destroy a person's image. It's so annoying. Feng Zhao is in trouble. Wu Tianhao said excitedly. Zero's drowsiness immediately vanished. Who? Quite a few core members of the Renault family had attended the Whale Island conference. Zero's father was one of them. They knew about Feng Zhao. They also knew a little about Feng Zhao's meritorious service on Whale Island. Looking at Feng Zhao, then looking at his own son, he wanted to beat him up. Thus, after the Whale Island conference ended, Zero was thrown into training by his father. During this period, what he heard the most was, look at Feng Zhao. Now, when he heard that Feng Zhao was involved, Zero was excited. He searched the internet and found all sorts of things. Zero was so excited that his spittle flew everywhere. This kind of thing is so secretive. One look and I can tell that he has a guilty conscience. Based on my 20 years of experience in the entertainment circle, there is an 80% to 90% chance that he is hiding a mistress. How awesome! Feng Zhao actually did something that even I don't dare to do. The Renault family elders had already told Zero to be open about dating and making friends. There was no need to be secretive. There was no choice. The Renault family elders were also worried. It wasn't that they were too strict, but that Zero's IQ was limited. The family was afraid that he would be killed if he wasn't careful. Zero wasn't satisfied talking to Wu Tianhao, so he contacted Chu Bo. "Fuck, do you know that Fang Zhao is in trouble?" Chu Bo, who had just finished a concert and had been criticized by his family for not being able to control himself, wasn't in a good mood. He didn't even go online and was squatting in the recording studio gloomily. The news that Zero brought immediately roused his spirits. "Really?" Chu Bo flipped over and browsed the news online. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. To think that he would have such a day. Chu Bo had complicated feelings when he mentioned Fang Zhao. He felt that Fang Zhao was a rather good person, but ever since he had been frightened by Fang Zhao during that performance, he had been traumatized for a long period of time. Now, the trauma had dispersed a little, but it hadn't completely disappeared. Now that he saw that Fang Zhao had also gotten himself into such a matter, the trauma he had felt toward Fang Zhao had dispersed quite a bit. Look, Fang Zhao was just an ordinary person. There was nothing to be afraid of. With this thought, Chu Bo gave Fang Zhao a call to express his consolation and ask if he needed any help. If he could make Fang Zhao owe him a favor, Chu Bo felt that the psychological trauma Fang Zhao had given him would disappear. This was what Chu Bo had always thought. Those who were better than him wouldn't come looking for him and wouldn't need his help. On the contrary, those who needed his help were definitely not as good as him. Since they were not as good as him, what was there to be afraid of? Thus, Fang Zhao received consolation calls from Zero, Wu Tianhao, Chu Bo, and the others. They couldn't conceal their delight at Fang Zhao's misfortune. Fang Zhao. Are these little kids itching for a beating? Of course, besides Zero and the others, Fang Zhao also received calls from many others. Even Mo Lang had specially called to ask about it. These people were genuinely concerned. Although it wasn't convenient to divulge the details because the police were still investigating, Fang Zhao also expressed that it wasn't a big deal. All the rumors online were just nonsense. All they had to do was wait for the truth. While the internet was abuzz with speculation, Zui Yu and Yen Biao arrived at Qi'an City and went to Fang Zhao's home first. There were 2 police officers standing guard there. After confirming their identities, Zui Yu and Yen Biao entered the house. Seeing the messy interior, Zui Yu pursed his lips. "Boss, it's time to move." Given Fang Zhao's current status, it really wasn't suitable for him to stay here. This place was indeed considered a luxurious home for ordinary people, but for a public figure and someone with sufficient exposure in the entertainment circle, it wasn't enough. Yen Biao looked around and his gaze stopped at the water tank. The 80 million is still here. Following Fang Zhao's instructions, Yen Biao switched on his communications device and contacted Fang Zhao to initiate a video call. "Boss, we are already here." Yen Biao showed Fang Zhao the situation at home. "It's not too bad." On the other end, Fang Zhao casually glanced at the somewhat messy house and told Yen Biao, "Check if the water tank is unlocked." Yen Biao approached and took a look. "It's unlocked. The lid of the water tank can be opened." This time, Fang Zhao was silent for a slightly longer time. "Boss?" Yen Biao asked doubtfully. Zui Yu also did a careful inspection. He heard that the 2 burglars had fainted nearby, but he didn't find any traces of a mechanism. Fang Zhao sighed deeply and told Yen Biao, "Stick a note on the water tank. Do not approach poison. Write it bigger and more eye-catching." Zui Yu and Yen Biao. "Boss, you mean, those 2 were stung?" Enrich. Zui Yu and Yen Biao took a step back. Fang Zhao scanned the area and saw that 2 pots of flowers in the living room had been chewed on. It was obvious that the rabbit in the water tank had come out. After confirming his suspicions, Fang Zhao applied for leave and returned to Yenzhou after class the next day. The 2 that had been sent to the hospital were finally out of danger, but they were still unconscious. The police now knew that the 2 had been poisoned by the sea slug, but there were still some questions they needed to ask Fang Zhao. Feng Zhao cooperated and showed his breeding permit and all sorts of documents. The documents were complete, and there were no problems with the breeding. The police also checked the sea slug feed in Feng Zhao's house. Sea slugs were common pets, and without approval, they weren't allowed to be fed toxic feed. Although the police had already confirmed that the feed in Feng Zhao's house was completely non-toxic, this didn't prove that the feed the sea slug had been fed was also non-toxic. After that, many professors who researched sea slugs compared the data and even specially obtained data from the sea slug's breeder from a long time ago. In the end, they came to a conclusion: what caused the two to be hospitalized was just the little bit of toxicity that it produced through photosynthesis. It was only released when it sensed danger, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the feed. If it had really been fed toxic feed, forget about being highly toxic, just a little bit of toxicity would have killed the two before the police arrived. Police. So, those two deserved it. Looking at the pot and seasoning that had been flipped over in the kitchen, one could tell what the two were planning. It could only be said that those two had asked for it by entering the house vertically and coming out horizontally. They deserved to be stung. And they were lucky that Feng Zhao hadn't fed them toxic feed. However, there was still a doubt that hadn't been resolved. The areas on the two's bodies that had been stung were too large, and they didn't know how it had happened. Could it be that the two had hugged the sea slug and rolled around? Those would have to wait for the two to wake up before questioning them. Right now, there were no problems on Feng Zhao's side. The person sent by Silver Wing to resolve the matter with Feng Zhao also heaved a sigh of relief. No wonder Feng Zhao had dared to call the police. He really hadn't done anything illegal and hadn't used any underhanded methods. He had thought too highly of Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao was a rare clean slate. However, the matter wasn't over yet. All sorts of rumors were flying around online, and they needed the help of the police to clarify things. Otherwise, people wouldn't believe Silver Wing's words, and they had to contact several authoritative media outlets. Those people's words carried weight. Silver Wing's team would handle the aftermath. Thus, a day after the incident, one of Yenzhou's authoritative media outlets released a piece of news: frowny-faced two wanted criminals sneaked into Feng Zhao's residence in the middle of the night to cook a sea slug worth 80 million. Instead, they were stung and sent to the hospital, nearly losing their lives. After waiting a day for the first authoritative media outlet to make a statement, people all over the world who saw this piece of news were shocked. Ha 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 ha, what kind of idiotic news is this? Those two are fucking idiots. That's right, they could even sneak into a luxurious residence. Their IQ shouldn't be. What's the rush? They nearly poisoned themselves to death over a sea slug. Suspecting that Feng Zhao directed and acted on his own. How could there be such a stupid thief? Feng Zhao again? Is it a publicity stunt? Or is he making it up to hide the truth? What's there to make up? Just now, Yenzhou's Qi and city police have already confirmed the identities of those two. There's an official stamp. It's real news. Those two are on the police's A-grade wanted list. This time, Feng Zhao's sea slug has done a meritorious deed. Really? Those two are really on the police's A-grade wanted list? If it's true, I have to say to those two, they fucking deserved it. As expected of my idol. Even the sea slug he keeps can catch thieves. A certain person from Pet Magazine, who had previously evaluated Feng Zhao's two pets, was agitated when he saw this. I told you, that one is really super dangerous. Now do you guys believe me? Back then, I had worn such thick gloves, and just trying to touch it, my arm had nearly been stung to the point of being crippled. It really wasn't my fault, but that rabbit was just that savage. Chapter 434. Very quickly, more and more authoritative media outlets reported on this incident, confirming that the two fugitives had gone to steal something and ended up in the hospital after being stung by Feng Zhao's sea slug. Authoritative media outlets didn't have so many clickbait headlines. They were more inclined to state the facts, but they were also more convincing. Following these media outlets' official statements, the public no longer suspected that Feng Zhao had done anything shady. Gradually, more and more people focused their attention on Feng Zhao's sea slug. I want detailed information on the same type of sea slug as Feng Zhao's and how to purchase it. The price is negotiable, a certain Feng Zhao fan excitedly posted on social media platforms. Don't bother looking. There's only one in the entire world, and it carries extraterrestrial genes. This kind of species with extraterrestrial genes isn't easy to raise. I found the article on Feng Zhao's sea slug from back in Pet magazine. It really was valued at 80 million. I remember this. Feng Zhao's one can even emit light and set fire to a batch of sea slug lamps. Those two thieves were also idiots. If they had stolen the sea slug and sold it on the black market, they could have made tens of millions. As professional thieves, all they thought about was eating. That's not exactly the case. I've asked many people. Many people want to raise the kind of sea slug that Feng Zhao raises, but I've never seen anyone willing to secretly raise it on the black market. He doesn't dare raise that sea slug secretly. He has no idea what it eats or how to raise it. Because it's a new hybrid species, he's worried that he might accidentally raise it to death after buying it. Who would want to take the risk of throwing away 80 million? Makes sense. That's why those two fugitives aren't willing to take the risk and just eat a sea slug worth 80 million. Thinking about it that way, it's worth it. Ha 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 ha, didn't they still end up in the hospital after being stung? Those two idiots. Speaking of which, this incident reminds me of that movie that was released some time ago. It was also about sea slugs. Right. I just thought of it too. The topics on the internet kept changing, and eventually, the movie about the sea slug was mentioned. It was about a sea slug with a high IQ that was about to become a spirit. Originally, everyone had just treated it as a relaxing sci-fi story, but now, the incident at Feng Zhao's house had sparked even more discussion. Thus, very quickly, the direction of the online discussion shifted from the two idiotic fugitives to Feng Zhao's sky-high price of sea slugs, to the possibility of raising sea slugs with extraterrestrial genes and expanding the market, and finally, to whether or not the fairy-grade sea slugs mentioned in the movie existed. Because of this, the box office sales of the Sea Slug movie, which had been nearing the bottom, started to rise again. Feng Zhao received a call from Tan Min when he got home. Back when Feng Zhao had been invited to Huangzhou's Corral district to participate in the Corral Film Festival, he had met Tan Min, a diver who had switched careers to become a director, while buying feed for sea slugs. Feng Zhao had seen Tan Min's character and his goal of advocating for the protection of the marine ecosystem, so he had invested some money for Tan Min to make a movie. The story revolved around sea slugs. Not long ago, when the movie was released, the box office was still okay. It might not be a huge profit, but at least it was profitable and not a loss. After all, it was a small budget, and it wasn't particularly exciting. It could only be considered passable. But after this incident, Feng Zhao had brought up a wave of talk about sea slugs, and Tan Min didn't let this opportunity slip by. Seeing the box office rise once again, Tan Min excitedly gave Feng Zhao a call. A friend of mine said that if we seize this opportunity, we will surely turn a small profit into a big one. We just negotiated the rights to 2 video platforms. Feng Zhao, when the time comes, I will return you at least 3 times the money you invested. And this is just a conservative estimate. Ahem, if we are lucky enough to join the 10 times profit film club, that would be even better. Tan Min spoke with confidence and his voice was loud and clear. When he mentioned the 10 times profit film club, his eyes flashed with ambition. Only Tan Min himself knew the hardships of going from a diver to a director. His success this time had been a fluke, but at least he had confidence and confidence. Tan Min felt that his future as a director was still very bright. Tan Min wouldn't be stingy with Feng Zhao, his benefactor. After a wave of marketing using Feng Zhao's popularity and seeing the box office rise again, he hurriedly expressed his stance to Feng Zhao. He wasn't someone who would forget favors at the sight of money. Feng Zhao laughed when he heard Tan Min's words. You don't have to pay me back. I will donate all the money I earn from this film to the Marine Environment and Ecology Conservation Foundation. You are familiar with such organizations, so it will be easier for you to handle them. On the other end of the line, Tan Min paused and asked tentatively, all of it? That was a lot of money. All of it, Feng Zhao confirmed. After confirming that Feng Zhao's intentions weren't to launder money or put on an act, but that he had really decided to donate, Tan Min was suddenly moved. He started to reflect on whether he had been blinded by the profits before his eyes. When he had first switched from a diver to a director, it had been to show people the charm of the ocean and to urge people to protect it. Now, he had almost forgotten his original intentions. I will donate too. Tan Min choked. You don't have to. You still have to save up some money. This is just the beginning. You still have to prepare for the later works, Feng Zhao said calmly. Tan Min's heated mind had been doused with a basin of water. He had to face reality. That's right, he couldn't compare to Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao was someone who would donate tens of billions of dollars at a whim. After ending the call, Feng Zhao went online to check on the status of Tan Min's film and help to forward it. Then he once again pondered the burglary at his house. The police's main focus was on the two fugitives. As for details, such as the hybrid sea slug's method of stinging and other details, they had only asked cursory questions. When they found out that the sea slug could open its own tank, they had only been surprised for a while. An $80 million new breed with extraterrestrial genes. Strictly speaking, it could be considered a new species. It was a little special, but it made sense. Even so, Feng Zhao still had to stay in Yenzhou for 2 more days to cooperate with the investigation. The police suspected that someone was targeting Feng Zhao. The two fugitives hadn't picked their targets randomly. The police in charge of investigating the incident had also asked Feng Zhao who he had offended. Were there any suspects? The clues they had obtained from the two fugitives were limited. Feng Zhao really couldn't think of anyone. He had offended a lot of people and stood in the way of a lot of people. He had incurred the jealousy of many. No matter what, boss, you have to take care of your own safety. Nan Feng said anxiously. Also, boss, it's best if you move. You can't stay here anymore. Many entertainment reporters in Yenzhou have their eyes on this place. The residents downstairs have a few excuses to visit. Since you have already been exposed, boss, you should move to a more private place with better security. I have already contacted a few friends to find out about suitable districts in Yenzhou. Luckily, boss, you haven't graduated from advanced studies, so you don't live here. Nan Feng suggested that it would be best to choose a detached villa to avoid being secretly photographed by the people upstairs and downstairs. For example, after the people downstairs found out that Feng Zhao was staying here, someone had installed a remote control camera the size of a fly to secretly take pictures. They even said they were just taking pictures of the city scenery. Bullshit. There's no rush. Continue asking around, Feng Zhao said. At this stage, this place wasn't suitable for living, but he wasn't in a hurry to find a place. He still had to return to Huangzhou in 2 days to continue his studies. As he was speaking, Nan Feng received a new message. Because Feng Zhao didn't have a manager, as an assistant and temporary liaison, he could basically be considered half a manager. If others couldn't contact Feng Zhao, they would contact Nan Feng. Seeing Nan Feng's odd expression, Zuyu asked, "What is it now?" Nan Feng glanced at Feng Zhao and said, "Looking for boss to endorse." "Endorse what?" Zuyu was curious. "Black walks." Nan Feng showed the photo to Feng Zhao, Zuiyu, and the others and explained, the photo of boss's kitchen that was previously leaked was the one where the two wanted criminals took out the wok and seasonings and tried to cook 80 million, the one where they tried to cook our sea slug. The brand of the black wok has been found. Now, the manufacturer wants boss to endorse their wok. Endorse? Nanfeng looked at Feng Zhao. No, Feng Zhao replied. As he spoke, Feng Zhao also received a call. Looking at the caller, Feng Zhao smiled and answered. Naz? Long time no see. The caller was the owner of Space, a nightclub in Qian City where people drank and listened to music. He was also one of the world's top 3 speedstrumming masters, not a woozy. Naz was a form of address only used by close friends or family members. Later on, Notawuzi had also let Feng Zhao call him that. I heard you ran into some trouble over there. Come over to have some fun. No need to worry about harassment from entertainment reporters. Notawuzi said unhurriedly, I remember you saying you were interested in antiques. I also just obtained some old-era items. Come over to take a look. After saying so much, Notawuzi was itching to find someone to play the guitar with. Feng Zhao wanted to avoid the entertainment reporters and was also interested in the old-era items that Notawuzi had mentioned. Zuiyu, you come with me. Yan Biao and Nanfeng stay at home, Feng Zhao said. Yan Biao had been the one driving the previous time. Now, it was Zuiyu's turn. Boss, I will go too. Zuiyu alone won't be enough. Nanfeng and Yan Biao said at the same time. No need. You guys keep an eye on those two. Feng Zhao pointed at the sea slug that had been locked back in the water tank and glanced at Curly Hair, who was guarding the shelf. Nanfeng and Yan Biao wanted to persuade him but kept quiet. They had no choice. Having met a boss who could fight and run better than them, they felt like they would just be decorations. Persuading Curly Hair made them feel weak. After Feng Zhao and Zuiyu left, Yan Biao sat on the sofa and pondered for a while. He looked at the time and kicked Nanfeng, who was sending a message. He raised his chin and pointed at Curly Hair, who was squatting in front of the shelf. This dog, Curly Hair, has been squatting there ever since he came back. I think he can gaze at the shelf for an entire day. No, it should be this dog's one-sided gaze. Nanfeng glanced over and said nonchalantly, he is helping boss guard his belongings. Besides the $80 million sea slug, the items on the shelf are the most valuable. All good dogs are like that. They are silent and loyal guards and won't let outsiders steal a single brick or tile from the house. Is that so? Yan Biao didn't believe it. He felt that Curly Hair's eyes were filled with passion when he looked at the shelf. Another hour passed. Curly Hair was still squatting in front of the shelf. He didn't even touch the dog food that Yan Biao had placed beside him. Yan Biao glanced at the shelf and thought about what Nanfeng had said. Then, he observed Curly Hair and smiled silently. This little fella is rather interesting. Look at how he is guarding his belongings. Will he chase you to the ends of the world if you steal one of the items on the shelf? Chapter 435. The first time Feng Zhao had come to Space, he had listened to Silver Wing Gaming Department Manager Wayne's suggestion. He had come here to see what his peers were like. At that time, he had not completely adapted to his new identity and did not understand the normal state of being a youngster. He had wanted to learn to be more lively, passionate, and flamboyant. Furthermore, in order to compose music that could be accepted by youngsters of the new era, he had been willing to come into contact with new things and new places. He had also met Notawuzi at Space. Space was an entertainment venue, and the area above Space was Notawuzi's private domain. Unless Notawuzi invited them, no one could go up. Feng Zhao got Zuiyu to park the car at the place Notawuzi had mentioned. There was already someone waiting there, and the two of them were escorted upstairs. Notawuzi's private domain was quiet most of the time. Nadawuzi practiced his guitar in a soundproof room, and the corridor was so quiet that it was somewhat solemn. Feng Zhao's arrival broke this solemnity. "Teacher Feng, this way please. The boss is already waiting." A bodyguard dressed in black who was waiting in the corridor gestured to Feng Zhao with a smile. Zuoyu glanced at that person and thought to himself, "Teacher Feng." The last time he had come, it had been Mr. Feng. This time, it was Teacher Feng. Was the boss's status higher, or had the other party's bootlicking skills improved? As an artist's bodyguard, was it better to be more honest or more quick-witted? Zuoyu discreetly compared himself to this bodyguard who seemed to be doing rather well. He decided to go back and discuss this with Yan Biao and Nan Feng. He wanted to establish a more reliable persona for himself and not lose out. Feng Zhao got Zuoyu to wait outside while he walked into the room Nadawuzi was in. As one of the 3 speed-strumming masters in the world, Nadawuzi, who was known as Yenzhou's shadowless hands, was usually very lonely. The loneliness of an ace, the loneliness of other than me, everyone else is trash. His voice was not very good to begin with, and he did not like to speak. He was a man of few words and spoke slowly. Nadawuzi had no desire to speak to a bunch of ordinary people. Those who didn't understand Nadawuzi might think that he had been in the realm of gods for too long and that he hadn't interacted with mortals who didn't understand music and wasn't down to earth. Usually, Nadawuzi's assistants and bodyguards were already used to being ignored by this boss and used to Nadawuzi's silence. Today, when Feng Zhao arrived, they heard Nadawuzi roar with laughter, completely different from his usual reticence. "Long time no see. Feng Zhao." Nadawuzi shoved a guitar into Feng Zhao's hands. "Do you still remember how to play?" Nadawuzi was worried that Feng Zhao might be rusty after not touching the guitar for a long time. "I remember." Feng Zhao took the guitar and said, "During my advanced studies at Huang Art, there are also self-study lessons on musical instruments." "That's good." Nadawuzi didn't waste any more time talking nonsense. He started off with Feng Zhao's outburst. The room was closed, cutting off the sound of the guitar. Zuoyu and Nadawuzi's bodyguards stood guard outside. Of course, they didn't just stand there. When bodyguards met, they would flatter each other and exchange professional experiences. Nadawuzi's bodyguards also brought tea and snacks. Alcohol was out of the question. Alcohol wasn't allowed during work hours. The bodyguard that Zuoyu had compared Feng Zhao to was currently sitting opposite Zuoyu. He had been promoted to the position of Nadawuzi's personal bodyguard this year. When Nadawuzi was out, he and a few other bodyguards would protect Nadawuzi. This was considered a promotion and a pay raise. Perhaps because he was too curious about Zuoyu's bodyguard, he asked about Zuoyu's usual work. Zuoyu smiled faintly. "When boss is out, we accompany him. When boss is home, we also have missions and carry out boss's orders." That bodyguard was stunned. "When your boss isn't out, you still have missions?" Zuoyu maintained his calm smile. "Of course. There were too many missions. For example, feeding pets, walking dogs, attending training classes. These were all things that couldn't be said." The bodyguard sitting opposite Feng Zhao seemed to be imagining something. His eyes flashed with respect and envy. To be entrusted with such an important task by boss, this is the embodiment of a bodyguard's value. "Impressive." "Cough, you're flattering me." Zuoyu maintained his composure. The two bodyguards chatted, from their business experience to their philosophy of doing things. Then, they began to boast about their boss. "Don't be fooled by how slow our boss usually talks, but when he touches the guitar, he's like a hurricane." Two extremes. However, geniuses always have their own personalities. You can't judge a book by its cover. Nadawuzi's bodyguard had a, "I'm so lucky to be able to rub off on boss's genius halo." Zuoyu nodded in agreement. "I understand. Just like our boss." He usually looks like a gentle and cultured person, but when he plays games, he turns into a werewolf. Very explosive. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to compose so many epics. Some of them can even be used to treat illnesses. He was an outstanding employee. It couldn't be said that his boss was ruthless. Nadawuzi's bodyguards didn't think much of it. To Nadawuzi, Feng Zhao was more of an artist, a literary and artistic worker. Nadawuzi's bodyguards also viewed Feng Zhao as a cultured youth. The incident of Feng Zhao taking on 6 people at space had long been blurred by the cultured youth filter. Was that a fight? That was disco dancing. Nadawuzi's bodyguard. Actually, for people like us who work as bodyguards for celebrities, even though our pay is high, sometimes the psychological pressure is really great. Our boss probably doesn't speak as much to us in a month as he did to Feng Zhao today. It feels like we are constantly being despised. Zuoyu maintained his smile. I understand. The pressure of being a salted fish was also great. The 2 bodyguards shared the pressure of being a bodyguard outside. Inside the room, Feng Zhao and Nadawuzi strummed the guitar for a while. Nadawuzi was satisfied and asked Feng Zhao about his recent affairs, whether he needed help, and recommended a few suitable residential areas. Feng Zhao gave a simple explanation and then said, "Didn't you say that you obtained a few new old-era objects? Let me take a look." "Oh, right, I almost forgot." Nadawuzi brought Feng Zhao to his collection room. These are all the objects on the shelf. However, the top layer is the real thing, and the bottom layer is the imitation. Imitations can be used directly. Nadawuzi's father was an archaeologist and loved collecting antiques. Nadawuzi also had some interest in old-era objects, but he preferred guitars and various old-era instruments. Everything else was secondary. However, overall, he was still a little interested. After obtaining some old-era objects, he would carefully place them on the shelf and get someone to make an imitation of the real thing for him to play with. He couldn't bear to part with the real thing. Furthermore, many old-era objects, even if they had been repaired and reinforced, would still be damaged after 500 years. Besides, even if those objects were perfectly restored, they would still be far from being as sturdy as many of the newer materials from the new era. Nadawuzi introduced Feng Zhao to the new old-era objects and their uses in the old era. This is a type of mobile phone from the old era. It has been damaged quite badly, and its original appearance can't be seen. Look at the imitation below. This is what it looks like. It is said that this is a rather early type. It is rather large, and in the old era, it was also known as Big Brother. I can't imagine how people carried such a big thing to make a phone call back then. It's too inconvenient. Nadawuzi was rather pleased to be able to obtain this incomplete brick phone. Although it had been badly damaged, it was impossible to find a second brick phone in the entire world that was in such good condition. It was said that it had been preserved by the help of collectors. Otherwise, after so many years, not even its remains could be found. And this, you definitely won't be able to guess what this is for. Nadawuzi flaunted his collection. Some were electronic components, but most were musical instrument parts. However, Feng Zhao didn't pay attention to any of these. His attention was focused on a small compartment in the corner of the shelf. There was a small circular insignia. For collectors, insignia, especially secondary school insignia that didn't have any historical significance, didn't have much value. Only a portion of people who were interested in insignia would collect them. But for Feng Zhao, the significance was different. In the old era, Feng Zhao had attended Dingchuan Secondary School for his 3rd year of high school. Now, Dingchuan City was gone, and Dingchuan Secondary School had disappeared during the period of destruction. Feng Zhao thought he had forgotten what it looked like. Chapter 436. Nadawuzi spoke too much in his excitement. He only stopped when he felt that his throat was uncomfortable. Feng Zhao played the guitar with Nadawuzi for a while before letting Nadawuzi rest first. He then went to the room arranged for him. In Nadawuzi's territory, there was no need to worry about entertainment reporters. The privacy here was pretty good, and Feng Zhao could have 2 days of peace and quiet. After tidying up a bit, Feng Zhao came out of the shower. Nadawuzi had sent someone to deliver the badge to him. The small box was divided into 2 layers. The upper layer contained the genuine badge and the lower layer contained the imitation. After thanking Nadawuzi, Feng Zhao rejected Nadawuzi's suggestion to head downstairs for a drink and stayed in his room alone. He put on his gloves and took out the small round badge from the box. Previously, it had been inconvenient. Now that there was no one else, Feng Zhao looked at the little stamp in his hand. The events of the period of destruction took up too much of his memory. Too much time had passed, and the memories of the old era were already very faint. Feng Zhao had once wondered if it was because he had been reborn into this body that he could no longer find many of his memories. However, as the days passed, Feng Zhao discovered that while his memory was improving, many of the memories that he had originally thought he had forgotten also gradually resurfaced. It was just that these all required an opportunity and some catalyst. This was the middle school's emblem. Middle school, that was a long, long time ago. What was it like in middle school? Feng Zhao closed his eyes and tried to search through his memories. As if he had passed through a long time and infinite space, he finally found a piece of memory in the swirl of stars. Some things became clear, and the countless fragments constructed another flesh and blood version of himself. Bang! He was awakened by the sudden noise. In front of her was a desk with some paint peeling off. Her arm was resting on a marked monthly test paper. There was a parent's signature at the corner of the paper, which was rolled up by the wind and laid flat on the desk. Feng Zhao watched all of this in a daze. It feels like I've had a long dream. He raised his head. The sunlight slanted onto the blackboard and the tables and chairs. Some were whispering, some were laughing. Outside the classroom, the figures leaning against the railing gathered together, chatting and enjoying the breeze. Outside, the sky was clear and bright. It seemed that everything was not too late. In the quiet room, Feng Zhao opened his eyes and snapped out of his daze. He raised his hand, and in it was a slightly deformed, worn, and discolored metal school badge. He got up, walked to the window, and pushed it open. What greeted him was the somewhat chilly air and the clear-headed metropolis of the new era. The night passed. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Feng Zhao gazed into the distance, his gaze unfocused. Slowly, the world quieted down. The hustle and bustle of the city were isolated from his ears. Retracting his gaze, Feng Zhao sent a message to Zuoyu and hung a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door of his room. He sat in front of his desk and took out his notebook and pen. People were very good at forgetting. From the moment they woke up, the things in the dream would gradually fade away in a few minutes. Only by memorizing it would it take root in the brain and not be easily forgotten. Zuoyu, who had received Feng Zhao's message, was already used to Feng Zhao suddenly entering seclusion. As a bodyguard, he had to take responsibility. Thus, Zuoyu hurriedly munched on a piece of hardtack and stood guard in front of Feng Zhao's room door in high spirits. After a while, someone came over. It was someone sent by Nadawuzi. He had invited Feng Zhao downstairs for breakfast, but he hadn't received a reply from Feng Zhao, so he had sent someone over to take a look. Zuoyu put on a stern and polite face and explained that Feng Zhao was currently composing. If there wasn't anything particularly important, it would be better to wait for Feng Zhao to come out himself. For an artist, a lack of inspiration was tantamount to starting a feud. When the person heard this, he didn't say anything else. He brought over a plate of refreshments and left in a hurry. Downstairs, Nadawuzi was sitting at a square table. Besides him, there were a few other people. He had just sent someone to invite Feng Zhao over for breakfast and to introduce him to a few friends in the music industry. After a while, the person he had sent returned, but Feng Zhao was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Feng Zhao?" "Still not up?" one person asked. "Many things have happened recently. I reckon he hasn't been sleeping well for the past few days," Nadawuzi replied. The person who had gone upstairs hurriedly replied, "He's up, but the door is closed. His bodyguard says that Feng Zhao's inspiration has come and he is composing, so it isn't convenient to disturb him." Nadawuzi was flabbergasted for a moment before waving his hands to indicate that he understood. "Looks like he has some creative inspiration." "Feng Zhao is quite a talented person," the person at the table said with a smile. "He really has the ability," Nadawuzi said. "Hey, Naz, it's rare for Feng Zhao to come to your place. Have you ever thought of inviting Feng Zhao over to your shop to play a song? Didn't you say that Feng Zhao's guitar is pretty good? It just so happens that there's a program tonight. If he can come out today, we can all exchange some pointers," another person said. Nowadays, Space had a special program every Saturday night. Nadawuzi would find friends he knew or invite famous master musicians or orchestras to perform. For this program, the guest performer would put on a mask and perform on a musical instrument. If the singer didn't make a sound, many people wouldn't be able to recognize him. Listeners could only guess who it was based on the style of the song and the performance technique. Most of the people who came to Space to listen to the songs were old customers and had a certain understanding of the music industry. They all loved this game every Saturday night. Every time around this time, they would gather a few friends to drink and listen to the songs. The person who guessed wrongly would have to foot the bill. Today happened to be Saturday, and the few people at the table were invited by Nadawuzi to perform tonight. It was a rock band that had some reputation in Yenzhou. The band leader and guitarist was a friend of Nadawuzi's for many years. Originally, they had come at Nadawuzi's invitation to make a friendly trip, but the band members had never imagined that Feng Zhao would actually be here. Feng Zhao was too famous. Not just in Yenzhou, but on a global scale. Not to mention, he had won a Supernova Award and was currently studying in a top-notch advanced course. As people in the same industry, they were both envious and curious. Too curious. They were curious about Feng Zhao as a person and about Feng Zhao's abilities. They had heard Feng Zhao's works. They were indeed impressive. Although his style was different from their band's, they could still distinguish between good and bad works. However, there were too many fakes in the industry, and Feng Zhao was too young. Unless they saw it with their own eyes and heard it with their own ears, even if someone of Mo Lang's caliber acknowledged Feng Zhao's abilities, they would still be skeptical. It wasn't easy to come across this opportunity, but Feng Zhao had gone into seclusion. They didn't even get to see him. Who knew how long his seclusion would last? The band would have performances scheduled for a long time, and Feng Zhao would return to Huangzhou to continue his advanced studies. The chances of bumping into Feng Zhao again were slim. Thus, if they missed this opportunity, they didn't know when the next one would be. "I wonder how much Feng Zhao has changed since his advanced studies. Has his style changed?" the band leader sitting beside Nadawuzi said. "Maybe he's even stronger. The place he studies at is Huangart's 12 tones. I tried a few times, but I didn't pass. Now that you mention it, I want to see him in person even more." Nadawuzi listened to them but didn't utter a word. Of course, Nadawuzi believed in Feng Zhao's abilities, but Feng Zhao's main focus was composing and not performing. His direction was different. Furthermore, Feng Zhao had encountered a lot of trouble recently. He was being watched by too many people. Whether he was willing to show his face and perform was up to Feng Zhao. If Feng Zhao wasn't willing, it was understandable. After a moment of silence, Nadawuzi said slowly, "I'll ask him when he comes out." If Feng Zhao came out of his room today, Nada Wuzi would introduce his band friends to Feng Zhao and ask Feng Zhao if he was willing to play a set at Space. If he was willing to show his face, that would be even better. Feng Zhao's fans were among those who came to Space to drink and listen to his songs. Given Feng Zhao's current reputation, he could bring quite a bit of popularity to the shop. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.